Chapter 562. The latest chapter isn't finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated faster and more frequently. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels with content that can't be found online are all available here. Little brother, something happened to your mother. Little Jing Kong looked at Huang Fu Xian worriedly. Don't be sad. I'm not sad, Huang Fu Xian said calmly. Little Jing Kong scratched his head in confusion. How could he not be sad? If something happened to Jiao Jiao, he would be very, very sad. Huang Fu Xian slowly withdrew his hand from the little guy's grasp. Maybe they heard wrong. Nothing happened to my mother. You should go back first. Little Jing Kong. Oh. This time, something did happen to Princess Ning En. The incident happened in the imperial study. Once the news spread, the entire harem was alarmed. Empress Xiao, noble consort Zhuang, consort Xu, and the others all went to the imperial study, only to find that it was surrounded by imperial guards. No one could enter. I can't enter either? Empress Xiao asked coldly. The commander of the imperial guards was surnamed Fu. He cupped his fists in salute and said, We're searching for assassins inside. For the safety of the Empress and the other imperial concubines, please wait here for a moment. How is His Majesty? Consort Xu asked anxiously. Commander Fu said, His Majesty retreated from the back door and returned to Pure Flowers Palace. Noble consort Zhuang rolled her eyes. Why didn't you say so earlier? Did they come here to catch assassins? Empress Xiao and the others hurried to Pure Flowers Palace, which was also surrounded by imperial guards. Fortunately, there were no assassins here, so no one stopped Empress Xiao. Noble consort Zhuang and consort Xu saw that she was going, so they also followed. Empress Xiao's position was stable. Her son was the crown prince, and her brother, Marquis Xianping, was fighting in the South Island. Noble consort Zhuang lost favor for a while because of Prince Ning, but she was backed by the Empress Dowager and the Zhuang family. As long as the Empress Dowager didn't punish her and the Zhuang family didn't dislike her, she would always have a place in the harem. Consort Xu was the same. Her two nephews had just made great contributions at the frontier fortress, so she also rose in status. Who would dare to block her path? The fourth concubine to enter Pure Flowers Palace was Consort Yu, Rui Wang's birth mother. Last year, Consort Rui Wang gave birth to Xiao Junzhu in the 10th month of the previous year, which could be considered a meritorious service for the imperial family. The other concubines were not so lucky. All of the palace servants in Pure Flowers Palace knelt on the ground with their heads bowed. The entire palace hall was filled with a cold and solemn atmosphere. For some reason, Empress Xiao had an ominous feeling in her heart. When she passed through the Chuehua Gate, she suddenly stopped and looked at a little maid kneeling on the ground. She asked, Did your Majesty come back alone? The palace maid said nervously, Empress, Princess Ningen came back with her. Empress Xiao frowned. Ever since Qin Chuyu was bullied by Huang Fu Xian again and again, Empress Xiao didn't like Princess Ning En. It was just that the emperor would come to comfort her from time to time, so she did not find fault with Ning En. But in the end, he was still unhappy. The emperor and Princess Ning En came to the bedchamber in the imperial carriage. The palace maids and eunuchs didn't know the emperor's condition. They only heard that Princess Ning En was injured and covered in blood. Empress Xiao didn't ask any more questions and quickly walked towards the bedchamber. At the entrance of the bedchamber, the palace maids and eunuchs were kneeling on the ground and wiping the mottled bloodstains. Empress Xiao's heart tightened. As she stepped in, a strong smell of blood mixed with the smell of golden sore ointment assailed her nostrils. Empress Xiao's scalp went numb. Your Majesty! Noble consort Zhuang passed by her and ran straight towards the dragon bed. Consort Xu and consort Yu glanced at Empress Xiao and restrained themselves. No matter how worried they were about His Majesty's health, they didn't have the courage to run ahead of Empress Xiao like noble consort Zhuang. Princess Ning En was sitting on a chair beside the bed. Her forehead was injured, her face was covered in blood, and her right arm was injured. An imperial physician was treating her injuries. 2 other imperial physicians were gathered in front of the dragon bed to check on the emperor's injuries. Eunuch Wei was anxiously wiping his tears beside the dragon bed. "Your Majesty, this concubine has come to see you." Noble consort Zhuang couldn't wait to come to the bed, only to find that the emperor's forehead was wrapped in thick gauze. His face was pale and he seemed to have fallen into a coma. Noble consort Zhuang's beautiful face turned pale as she asked, "What's wrong with His Majesty?" After imperial physician Liang finished examining the emperor's right arm, he began to examine his left arm. Hearing this, he bowed to noble consort Zhuang and said, "His Majesty's head is injured. As for other injuries, we are carefully diagnosing." Empress Xiao stopped in the middle of the bedchamber and said with dignity, "Noble consort, come here. Don't disturb the imperial physicians who are treating His Majesty." "I don't want to. I want to protect His Majesty. Someone come." At Empress Xiao's command, Eunuch Su, along with 2 powerful eunuchs, stepped forward and grabbed the shouting noble consort Zhuang. Empress Xiao's gaze swept over noble consort Zhuang, consort Shu, and consort Yu. "All of you wait outside." Eunuch Su came in front of the 3 imperial concubines and said, "3 imperial concubines, please." Noble consort Zhuang didn't want to go out, but she also knew that the situation was better than her. After Prince Ning's accident, her imperial mother no longer spoiled her. She had no capital to challenge Empress Xiao. Noble consort Zhuang angrily left the bedchamber. Since she had gone out, consort Shu and consort Yu also couldn't stay in the same place and had to leave together. Princess Ning came to greet Empress Xiao. Empress Xiao looked at her injury and asked, "What did the imperial physicians say?" Princess Ning looked haggard. "It's just a superficial injury. It's not a big deal." Empress Xiao asked, "What happened in the imperial study?" "I heard that an assassin came." Princess Ning lowered her head and choked with sobs. "Yes, an assassin. Tried to assassinate imperial brother. I couldn't stop it and let imperial brother get injured." Empress Xiao sternly said, "You go back to Bixia Hall to recuperate. I will deal with the assassin." Princess Ning reluctantly looked back at the unconscious emperor. She also glanced at Eunuch Wei. Eunuch Wei quickly lowered his eyes. Princess Ning turned her face and bowed to Empress Xiao. "Yes." After she left, Empress Xiao called Eunuch Wei over and asked with a dignified look, "What's the matter with the assassin? Why would an assassin sneak into the imperial study? Doesn't His Majesty have an imperial expert around him?" Eunuch Wei looked embarrassed. "There is, but—" Empress Xiao frowned. "But what?" Eunuch Wei said with a pained heart, "It just happened too quickly. No one expected this to happen. If Princess Ning had not stepped forward bravely and blocked the blade for His Majesty, I'm afraid His Majesty would have been dead by now." Seeing that the first move failed, the assassin grabbed the inkstone on the table and smashed it on His Majesty's head. Empress Xiao's eyes were cold. "Who is the assassin?" Eunuch Wei lowered his eyes and said, "A yeoman runner from the Ministry of Justice." After interrogating Eunuch Wei, Empress Xiao finally figured out the ins and outs of the emperor's assassination. It turned out that His Majesty had recently been investigating a case related to the royal family. Today, the prisoner in the prison of the Ministry of Justice pleaded guilty. The yeoman runner named Sun Ping came to deliver the prisoner's confession to His Majesty. Minister Xing was the emperor's trusted aide. Naturally, the emperor would not suspect the person he sent. Sun Ping took advantage of the fact that the emperor was flipping through the confession letter to suddenly pull out the soft knife hidden in his belt and stab towards the emperor. Eunuch Wei was at the door. He was far away and didn't see what Sun Ping was doing. Princess Ning reacted first. She rushed over and blocked the knife. Her right arm was seriously injured. When she fell down, she accidentally hit her forehead on the stool. When Eunuch Wei found something wrong and called someone to protect His Majesty, it was too late. Sun Ping was too close to His Majesty. His Majesty was hit by the inkstone Sun Ping grabbed. When Sun Ping wanted to hit Princess Ning a second time, Princess Ning rushed over, pulled out the remaining knife in her right arm and stabbed Sun Ping's heart. At that time, there were only His Majesty, Princess Ning An, and Eunuch Wei in the imperial study. There was no fourth witness. Empress Xiao asked the guards at the city gate and confirmed that Sun Ping did enter the palace in the name of delivering the confession. Of course, Empress Xiao also sent Eunuch Su to the Ministry of Justice. The news he received was consistent with what Eunuch Wei said. Sun Ping was here to deliver the confession. However, the Ministry of Justice didn't expect Sun Ping to assassinate His Majesty. Sun Ping and Sun Jian were cousins. One was in his early 20s and the other was 23. The two of them worked under Minister Xing. Their positions weren't high, but they were always around Minister Xing. Minister Xing thought highly of them. When they heard that Sun Ping had done such a rebellious thing, everyone's first reaction was disbelief. If it was Sun Jian who did it, they would think twice. Sun Jian was more cunning than Sun Ping. Occasionally, he would bully others. However, Sun Ping had always been honest. Eunuch Su, where is Sun Ping? Minister Xing asked. He's already dead, Eunuch Su said coldly. Minister Xing sucked in a breath of cold air. Eunuch Su asked in an arrogant tone, who let Sun Ping enter the palace? Xiao Heng took a step forward. Minister Xing pulled him back and said to Eunuch Su, "It was me." Eunuch Su raised his chin and harumphed coldly. Then Minister Xing, please follow me into the palace. Also, this matter concerns His Majesty. This assassination case will be handed over to the Supreme Court and the censorate will handle it. Minister Xing said politely, Eunuch Su, please wait for a moment. Allow me to tidy my attire so as to avoid being disrespectful in front of the palace. Men, Eunuch Su replied indifferently. Then, he led the palace servants out of Minister Xing's room. Minister Xing lowered his voice and said to Xiao Hang, I don't believe that Sun Ping would assassinate His Majesty. Lu Lang, investigate the truth. Xiao Heng nodded solemnly. As soon as Minister Xing left, Xiao Hang wrote a letter to Empress Xiao. The letter stated that Sun Ping was sent by him and the confession was obtained by him. It had nothing to do with Minister Xing. There was something else going on with Sun Ping. However, he hesitated and didn't send the letter out in the end. Minister Xing was brought to a side hall of Pure Flowers Palace. Empress Xiao sat on the main seat and looked coldly at Minister Xing, who was kneeling on the ground. She said, Minister Xing, do you have anything to say now? Were you the one who sent Sun Ping? Minister Xing said, Empress, Sun Ping was indeed sent by this humble subject. However, this humble subject doesn't believe that he would assassinate His Majesty. Empress Xiao said, Do you not believe me, or do you want to distance yourself from this matter? Minister Xing said, Sun Ping was this humble subject's bailiff. He died for no reason. This humble subject should do his best to investigate the truth and seek justice for him. Why would this humble subject be in a hurry to distance myself from this matter? Empress Xiao narrowed her eyes. So you're saying that this empress is wrongly accusing you? Minister Xing said in a neither servile nor overbearing manner, This humble subject doesn't dare. Empress Xiao said indifferently, This empress also wants to believe you, but the evidence is conclusive. Minister Xing looked up at her. May I ask what the empress is referring to as evidence? Empress Xiao said seriously, Witnesses and material evidence. We have both. Eunuch Su walked over with a tray. On the tray was a piece of brocade cloth. On the brocade cloth, there was a bloody soft knife and a blood-stained ink slab. These are Sun Ping's murder weapons. Eunuch Su told the Empress the whole story of the Emperor's assassination. Princess Ning, An and Eunuch Wei said the same thing. Princess Ning, An's biggest backer, was the Emperor. Everyone in the imperial court was debating whether to confer her the title of Princess Royal or not. The Emperor wanted her to be conferred the title. The Emperor's death was a great loss to her. Therefore, from this perspective, she had no motive to commit the crime. As for Eunuch Wei, he had been serving the Emperor for a long time. Who would doubt his loyalty? At this point, Minister Xing realized how weak his inference was in front of these two powerful witnesses. Empress Xiao asked, What else do you have to say? Minister Xing said, This humble subject has nothing to say. Empress Xiao said coldly, "Guards, escort Minister Xing to the Supreme Court." Minister Xing knelt on the ground with his back straight. He slowly took off his official hat and carefully handed it to the palace guards who came to detain him. Empress Xiao called the officials of the Supreme Court over and took them to the crime scene to collect evidence. The palace guards who had been interrogated before were also interrogated one by one. Empress Xiao was busy until late at night. Finally, she couldn't take it anymore and fell asleep on the back of the chair in the side chamber. It was late at night. The candlelight in the bedchamber flickered. Eunuch Wei knelt on the foot of the dragon bed, silently wiping his tears. A ghost-like beautiful figure quietly entered the room. The gorgeous train of her dress swept across the smooth floor. Eunuch Wei was crying when he suddenly saw a huge shadow on the dragon bed. He was so scared that he shivered. When he was about to turn around, a white hand gently pressed on his shoulder. Eunuch Wei's whole body tensed up. "Eunuch Wei, are you cold?" the person behind him asked gently. Eunuch Wei swallowed and suppressed the fear in his heart. He whispered, "Princess, I'm not cold." "If you're not cold, then why are you shivering?" she asked. Eunuch Wei forced himself to stop shivering. "Is my royal brother awake?" She lifted the bright yellow curtain and hung it with a hook. Then she sat down on the edge of the bed. Eunuch Wei looked at her uneasily and said, "Not yet." She raised her hand and gently touched the emperor's cheek. "My royal brother has suffered a lot." Eunuch Wei lowered his head and didn't say anything. "Eunuch Wei, who do you think caused my royal brother to be like this?" Sun Ping. Sun Ping. She was stunned and then laughed. She laughed so hard that she leaned forward and back. The sinister laughter echoed in the bedchamber. Eunuch Wei shuddered. He quietly turned his head to look at the palace guards kneeling in the bedchamber and found that they all fell asleep on the ground without exception. Eunuch Wei shuddered even more. She laughed enough and wiped the tears with her fingertips. "Eunuch Wei, isn't it me? Didn't I kill myself to prove my innocence, but my royal brother didn't believe me, so I accidentally harmed my royal brother?" Eunuch Wei didn't know how to respond. If he said the wrong thing, he was afraid that she would go crazy. If he said the right thing, he was afraid that she would go crazy. She said, "Eunuch Wei, you really are a person. I let you work for me and you really betrayed my royal brother. Are all of you rootless people so cowardly?" At the end of her sentence, she gritted her teeth and kicked Eunuch Wei to the ground. Eunuch Wei wasn't as old as Eunuch Qin, but he wasn't young either. This fall almost broke all the bones in his body. Was this still the princess he knew? She was clearly a violent madwoman. Whoever was with her really had 8 lifetimes of bad luck. She gave a mocking laugh. "Royal brother, open your eyes and look. This is the eunuch you trust. Their bodies are broken and their hearts are broken. They have no loyalty to speak of. Royal brother, I originally didn't plan on making a move against you so quickly, but why don't you believe me? Haven't you always trusted me the most? Is it because I didn't drug you that you are not as loyal to me as you are to Mu Fei? But I gave it to you now," Princess Ning'an said as she took out a small porcelain bottle from her chest. Eunuch Wei's expression suddenly changed. He wanted to stop her, but she could even beat the dragon shadow guard. If he rushed over, wouldn't he be sending himself to death? He didn't realize before that this princess hid so deeply. Princess Ning'an saw Eunuch Wei's struggle. She didn't care about the suspicion and disgust of an ant. She only found it funny. She laughed a few more times before turning to look at the emperor on the dragon bed. "Don't worry, it's not a drug to control your mind. You've taken too much of that drug. If you take more, you'll become a fool. How could I bear to? I still hope that Imperial Brother will be able to witness everything I do with a clear mind." Princess Ning'an pried open the emperor's mouth and poured the medicine in. Not long after, the emperor's eyelids began to tremble slightly. This was a sign that his consciousness was recovering. But although his consciousness had recovered, his body was even more unable to move. He would know everything that Ning'an had done. In a state of incomparable clarity, he would bear all the betrayal that Ning An had brought him. His heart felt like it was being cut by a knife, his lungs burned like fire, but there was nothing he could do. Digression. I regret it, I really regret it. I regret it as much as the Emperor when he woke up. This chapter of mine is like sitting on a rocket, the progress is so fast. A few lines of dialogue have brought the green tea tricks over. In fact, if I started writing, it wouldn't be too much to write 20,000 words. Veteran readers are very clear on this point. I am determined to be a good writer with a conscience, who doesn't abuse the reader, who doesn't drag the plot. Do you know how long I regretted it after the Empress Dowager recovered her memories? 1 month. An entire month. Isn't it good if I drag it out for 300,000 words? Isn't it beautiful if I add more words? I also need money to eat. I wrote in my notebook with a bold highlighter, if I dare to progress so fast, I will. That word can't be said. But as many times as old Tang is a donkey, I will be a donkey. Whether you admit it or not, the progress of this novel is so fast that every time I release a new chapter, I feel distressed. But even so, there are still people who jump out and scold me for dragging it out. I feel a bit sullen, wondering if I should just accuse them of dragging it out. That way, I won't be scolded for nothing. But after thinking about it, those people are in the minority, it's not worth it to be angry with them. Okay, I'm going to sleep. If you want to live without worries, you have to occasionally complain. Today's complaints are over, good night. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated faster and more complete. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels with connotations that can't be found online are all available here. https://www.zhbqg.com/89642/826/10870745 HTML Genius remembers this site's address in 1 second. www.zhbqg.com Biku mobile reading website, zhbqg.com. Chapter 563. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated faster. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels with content that can't be found online are all available here. Little Jing Kong sat in Lu Quan's carriage and returned to Bai Shui Alley at night. The secret guard on the roof of the carriage who was responsible for protecting him also flew into the house. Jiao Jiao! Jiao Jiao! The first thing little Jing Kong did when he entered the house was to shout Jiao Jiao, regardless of whether Gu Jiao was there or not. Fortunately, Gu Jiao was really at home today. She came to treat Master Zhao next door. In the evening, Master Zhao's eldest grandson suddenly ran to the clinic and said that Master Zhao fell and couldn't get up. Gu Jiao quickly put down her work and rushed back. Uncle Zhao's fall was an accident. His right wrist and right ankle were sprained, and the pain was unbearable, so he couldn't get up. When Gu Jiao checked Uncle Zhao's injuries, she also checked other things and found that Uncle Zhao had high blood pressure. It wasn't serious, so Master Zhao didn't feel much. But if he really felt unbearable discomfort, the situation would be very serious. After Gu Jiao treated Master Zhao's injuries, she prescribed some medicine to lower his blood pressure. When she returned to the east room, she heard little Jing Kong's voice. Gu Jiao put down the medicine box and walked out. Jiao Jiao. Little Jing Kong threw himself into Gu Jiao's arms. The 5-year-old boy could no longer hug Gu Jiao's thigh when he first came here. Now, he could barely reach Gu Jiao's waist when he stood on his tiptoes. Gu Jiao would usually bend down and let little Jing Kong throw himself into her arms. When she did this action, she did not have the same motherly gentleness as Yao Shi. In truth, she was a little stiff, and her expression was a little too calm, but in the instant that she wrapped her arms around little Jing Kong, the sense of security that came from being blocked behind her was something that no hug could compare to. Little Jing Kong breathed in Gu Jiao's scent with peace of mind. He closed his eyes and calmed down. Jiao Jiao. Gu Jiao rubbed his little head. You went to the palace? Gu Jiao had heard about it from Yao Shi. Okay. Little Jing Kong nodded. I'm going to visit Great Aunt and my brother. Gu Jiao took his little hand and walked to the backyard. How are Grand Aunt and little brother? Little Jing Kong said happily. Good, it's all good. No, that's not right. Little brother isn't very well. What's wrong? Gu Jiao asked. Little Jing Kong sighed. Something seems to have happened to his mother. I don't know what happened. I'm worried about him. Something happened to Princess Ning En? Gu Jiao paused. Then I'll ask around for you. Okay. The two came to the well, and Gu Jiao fetched a bucket of water for him to wash his hands. Fortunately, little Jing Kong was a child who could withstand the cold and was not delicate at all. If it were Qin Chuyu, he would have been screaming from the cold. Gu Jiao felt that the well water in winter was really warm, and she could take a bath directly. But her family didn't let her. After washing his hands, little Jing Kong went to practice the set of boxing that Gu Chongqing taught him. He practiced it every day, at least once, at most 3 or 4 times, without stopping. Gu Jiao felt that once a day was enough to strengthen his body. There was no need to work so hard. Little Jing Kong didn't just want to strengthen his body. He wanted to protect Jiao Jiao and his chickens. There was no harm in practicing more boxing, so Gu Jiao let him be. At night, Gu Jiao learned that the emperor was assassinated and was in a coma. In the study of the old chancellor next door, Gu Jiao, Xiao Hang, and the old chancellor sat on a cushion beside a short table. I knew she would do it, but I didn't expect her to be so ruthless. The old chancellor sighed. They publicized the case of Immortal Music House, forcing the emperor to investigate the case and give the people an explanation. Then, they got Hua Xiao's confession. Their original intention was to force her to do it. After all, a person would only reveal their flaws when she did it. The old chancellor said thoughtfully, I thought she would use the trick of injuring herself to make the emperor soften. Or she would destroy the confession before the emperor saw it, and then send someone to assassinate Hua Xiao. But why did she stab the emperor? She smashed it. Xiao Hang corrected. It's all the same. The old chancellor cleared his throat. The emperor is so pitiful. Xiao Hang. Your expression clearly doesn't show that. Gu Jiao was thirsty and went to drink tea. Xiao Hang took her cold tea without a trace and gave her the cup of hot tea that he hadn't touched. His eyes didn't fall on Gu Jiao, and his expression was very indifferent, as if it was just a casual movement. He said, the emperor should have seen the confession and chose not to believe her. He might even want to detain her, so she took the risk to attack the emperor. There are 2 doubts. First, why didn't the emperor believe her? Second, there was a dragon shadow guard beside the emperor. How did she get past the dragon shadow guard and attack the emperor? Empress Xiao hadn't seen the power of the dragon shadow guard, so she couldn't imagine how fast they were. No one could easily hurt the emperor under the eyes of the dragon shadow guard. Even if the emperor was hurt, it was impossible to escape unscathed. I'm very confused about the first point, Xiaoheng said. Gu Jiao nodded. So was she. The emperor doted on Princess Ning, and so much that it didn't seem right to suspect her based on a confession. Unless something else happened in the imperial study that shattered the emperor's familial filter for Princess Ning En. The old chancellor stroked his white beard and said, Back then, old concubine Jing fell from a horse too quickly. I always felt that there was something between her and the emperor that we overlooked. Xiao Heng said, As for the second doubt, I have a guess in my heart. The old chancellor looked at him. Say it. Xiao Hang analyzed. It's impossible for her to get past the dragon shadow guard and attack the emperor. She either lured the dragon shadow guard away or defeated the dragon shadow guard. She didn't know that Sun Ping would come to deliver the letter, so it's unlikely that the dragon shadow guard was lured away in advance. So she can defeat the dragon shadow guard? The old chancellor looked at Gu Jiao. Jiao Jiao, does she know martial arts? Gu Jiao took a sip of the hot tea that her husband handed over. Her stomach felt warm. She shook her head. I didn't notice. The old chancellor frowned. Could it be that she's an expert like old concubine Jing, who used medicine to change her pulse and hid the fact that she knows martial arts? Gu Jiao said, if that's the case, her body will show signs of weakness. She doesn't have this kind of situation. Xiao Hang said, you don't have to know martial arts to deal with the Dragon Shadow Guard. Everything in the world reinforces and restrains each other. The Dragon Shadow Guard came from the Yen Kingdom. I think that the Yen Kingdom must have a way to deal with the Dragon Shadow Guard. The few of them coincidentally thought of the power behind the collusion with Immortal Music House. Could it be that they were really afraid of a young lord of Immortal Music House? With Empress Dowager Zhuang's ability, was it difficult to issue an edict to depose the princess? The reason why she had to lower herself to play mind games was largely to test the power of the Yen Kingdom hidden in the dark. Xiao Hang paused and said, Hua Xiao can't continue to stay in the Ministry of Justice. The emperor couldn't tell whether the confession letter was real or fake, but the young master of Immortal Music House could see the flaw at a glance. After all, what was written in the confession letter wasn't Hua Xiao's real experience at all. The narrative tone was also wrong. The only similarity was the handwriting. However, in the case that the first 2 points were fake, it wasn't difficult to guess that the handwriting was also fake. The young master of Immortal Music House understood that Hua Xiao hadn't betrayed her so far. However, things were different now. She had made such a big move, and the risk she had to take was much greater than before. Hua Xiao's existence was always a threat to her. Xiao Hang didn't care about Hua Xiao's life, but Hua Xiao was always one of the important witnesses to bring down the young master of Immortal Music House. After several people's discussion, Hua Xiao was secretly sent to the medical center that night and became neighbors with Mo Chenxue. Hua Xiao, Mo Chenxue, Gu Jiao planned to transfer Secret Guard A to watch Hua Xiao, but Mo Chenxue snorted and said, no need to be so troublesome. I can keep an eye on her. Use more bone-softening powder. Hua Xiao. After settling Hua Xiao, they assessed the risk of the other related people. From the youngest to the oldest, it was Empress Xiao, the emperor, and Minister Xing. Empress Xiao was investigating this case. The less she knew, the safer she would be. As long as her direction was wrong, it was what Princess Ning wanted. Once she realized who the real murderer was, the situation would become dangerous. This was also why Xiao Hang decided not to tell her the inside story for the time being. The emperor was now in the hands of Princess Ning, and his personal safety was difficult to guarantee. But if he died at this time, Ning An's interests would stop here. Before squeezing the emperor's value, Ning An would not touch him. She just didn't know how long she could squeeze this value out of him. The first one to be executed might be Minister Xing. The next day, the Supreme Court began to investigate Sun Ping's assassination of the emperor. Minister Xing firmly claimed that Sun Ping was wronged and hoped that the Supreme Court could give Sun Ping justice. Minister Xing was, after all, a second-rank official. Unless His Majesty personally issued a decree to torture him, the Supreme Court really couldn't torture him. But it was not a good idea to waste time like this. Just when the Supreme Court could not find conclusive evidence for the case, a Yamen runner from the Ministry of Justice came to the Supreme Court and claimed that a suspect detained by the Ministry of Justice had evidence of the case. The Supreme Court hurriedly called the person to the interrogation room. Minister Xing was also there. Minister Xing never expected that the person who came would be Assistant Minister Li. Assistant Minister Li was set up because he was investigating the case of Xian Le House and took a life. There was not enough evidence to reverse the case for him, so he was temporarily detained in the Ministry of Justice. Minister Xing had a plan in mind. When Xian Le House was overthrown, he would release Assistant Minister Li. 2 lords. Assistant Minister Li saluted the two of them. The Minister of the Supreme Court said, "No need to be so polite. I heard that Assistant Minister Li has clues of the case." "That's right." Assistant Minister Li looked straight at the ground in front of him and said, "Actually, this official knows who the mastermind behind this is." "Oh. Sun Ping is only a sharp blade. The real murderer is someone else." "He is." Assistant Minister Li suddenly paused. Minister Xing's heart surged with an ominous premonition. Assistant Minister Li steeled his heart and said, "Lord Xing, I'm sorry. I've let down your years of cultivation, but this official really can't hide it for you anymore." Minister Xing looked at him in disbelief. Assistant Minister Li did not look at him. He only took out a few letters and handed them to the Minister of the Supreme Court. "These are the evidence of Lord Xing and Sun Ping's private dealings. Sun Ping's cousin, Sun Jian, used to be a street thug. Once, Lord Xing met a few robbers on a trip. Sun Jian had a grudge against them, so he beat them up. Unexpectedly, this incident caught Lord Xing's eye. Lord Xing brought the two brothers into the Ministry of Justice to become yamen runners. Sun Ping can be considered honest, but Sun Jian's bad habits did not change. Lord Xing had helped him pay off his gambling debts several times. These are all Sun Jian's promissory notes and letters of remorse. Not long ago, Lord Xing gave Sun Ping a large sum of silver and asked Sun Ping to do something important for him. This official accidentally overheard it outside the watchroom. Lord Xing told him that this matter was of great importance and that he must keep his mouth shut about Sun Jian. This official also heard Sun Ping say that if I don't come back, please take care of my cousin for me. Although my cousin likes to gamble, he has been changing and has been changing for a long time." The Minister of the Supreme Court asked, "Why didn't you say so earlier?" Assistant Minister Li said bitterly, "We are the Ministry of Justice and often have to investigate some confidential cases. I thought that Sun Ping had been sent out to investigate a major case that could lead to his death. That is not something I should ask, so I didn't think too much about it. It was only this morning that I heard the yamen runners outside the prison say that His Majesty was assassinated and that the murderer was Sun Ping that I thought of this matter. The most hurtful thing was never the enemy's sword or spear, but the cold arrows of one's comrades." "Why did you do this?" "Lord, is what I said not true?" It was true, but it was not the entire truth. Minister Xing had indeed asked Sun Ping to do something for him and gave him a few banknotes, but he was only taking care of the family of a yamen runner who had passed away. That yamen runner had been killed by the murderer while investigating a murder case. Minister Xing had always felt guilty, feeling that he had not protected his subordinate well. Who would have thought that something like this would happen before Sun Ping could give out the banknotes? As expected, when one was unlucky, even water would be stuck between one's teeth. The Minister of the Supreme Court looked at Minister Xing with a complicated expression and said to Assistant Minister Li, "So, the mastermind who ordered Sun Ping to assassinate His Majesty was Minister Xing?" Assistant Minister Li said, "The person who ordered Sun Ping was Minister Xing, but the mastermind behind the assassination of His Majesty was not him. Minister Xing was only acting on behalf of someone else." With these words, not only was Minister Xing stunned, even the Minister of the Supreme Court was stunned. The Minister of the Supreme Court said seriously, "Is there something else? Who is the mastermind behind the scenes?" Assistant Minister Li closed his eyes with a pained expression as if he had made a huge decision. He said, "It was the Empress Dowager." Minister Xing punched Assistant Minister Li to the ground. Assistant Minister Li handed over a portion of the letters that Empress Dowager Zhuang had written to Minister Xing. They were not personally written by Empress Dowager Zhuang, but this was easy to understand. Afraid of leaving something behind, how could such a clever person like the Empress Dowager have her own handwriting? She did not even know how to use the handwriting of the people around her. However, if each letter was burned with candlelight, Empress Dowager Zhuang's phoenix seal would appear on the paper. The contents of the letters confirmed that Minister Xing had been secretly plotting between the Emperor and Empress Dowager Zhuang over the years. The last letter was from 7 days ago. Empress Dowager Zhuang said that she had endured the Emperor for a long time. The Emperor had been at odds with her for many years and found that he could not win against her by force, so he began to use filial piety to confuse her. She thought that the Emperor had truly buried the hatchet with her and even gave away the power of court that she had controlled for many years for the Emperor. Who would have thought that the Emperor had been secretly plotting to get rid of her? The Emperor was heartless, so he could not blame her for being unjust. She wanted the Emperor's life. All of this was made up with a nose and eyes. If Minister Xing did not know that this was a trap set for him, he would have believed it himself. These letters were all written by Empress Dowager Zhuang, and there was no reply from Minister Xing. This was understandable. Minister Xing's reply must be in Empress Dowager Zhuang's hands. If it could not be found in Empress Dowager Zhuang's hands, there was an explanation. With Empress Dowager Zhuang's shrewdness, she would not leave any evidence. She must have burned it after reading it. Then why should I keep the evidence? Am I not afraid that it will be exposed? Minister Xing questioned Assistant Minister Li. Assistant Minister Li covered his swollen face and replied calmly, "That is because you understand that being the Empress Dowager's puppet is like asking a tiger for its skin. If one day the Empress Dowager kills the donkey after it has outlived its usefulness, at least you still have a trump card to threaten the Empress Dowager in order to protect yourself." This reason was impeccable. Minister Xing should be angry, but his first reaction was to give a thumbs up in his heart. It was a perfect crime. Empress Dowager Zhuang was once the most powerful woman in Zhao country. Before the previous emperor passed away, he had appointed her as regent. It was the previous emperor who had rightfully handed over the power to her. So what if she held court behind the curtain? As long as she didn't rebel, no one could do anything to her. But now that the regicide had happened, everything was different. Empress Xiao was usually very afraid of Empress Dowager Zhuang. But even a rabbit would bite when cornered. Empress Dowager Zhuang had committed regicide. How could she continue to swallow her anger? At worst, I'll die. If I die, my brother will avenge me when he comes back. Commander Fu of the Imperial Guards was a confidant of Marquis Xianping. Empress Xiao took the token left by Marquis Xianping to her and ordered Commander Fu to lead the troops to put Empress Dowager Zhuang under house arrest in Rancho Palace. Empress Xiao had no right to punish Empress Dowager Zhuang. She could only wait for the emperor to wake up and then make a decision. Therefore, after putting Empress Dowager Zhuang under house arrest, Empress Xiao returned to Chenkuan Palace to deal with official business. After the emperor was assassinated, everyone in the imperial palace was in a state of panic. In the past, when it was time to eat, the gates of each palace would be bustling with activity. But today, it was especially solemn. The palace servants came out of the imperial kitchen with food boxes. When they saw each other, they didn't greet each other with laughter. They silently saluted when they should and treated those who didn't need to. Inside Pure Flower's palace, a young eunuch also brought in the emperor's food. "You can all withdraw." "I'll do it," Eunuch Wei instructed the palace servants. "Yes." Everyone left in a single file. Eunuch Wei looked around and confirmed that there was no third person in the bedchamber. Then he came to the side of the emperor's bed and softly called out, "Your Majesty, Your Majesty." The emperor didn't respond. "Your Majesty, this servant has offended you." Eunuch Wei took out a raw fish bladder. He had soaked this fish bladder with medicine to get rid of the fishy smell. He cut a small hole in the fish bladder and forced the emperor's mouth open. Then he used his finger to shove the fish bladder in. Just as he finished doing this, an indifferent voice came from behind him. "Eunuch Wei, what are you doing?" Eunuch Wei trembled and almost stabbed the fish bladder into the emperor's throat. He forced himself to calm down and turned around with a sigh of relief. "You scared me to death." "So it was the princess. I thought the empress had come." Princess Ning walked forward and looked at him suspiciously. "Why are you feeling guilty when the empress is here?" Eunuch Wei used the action of tidying the emperor's bedding to discreetly stuff the fish bladder into the emperor's pants. Eunuch Wei's eyes flashed and he said embarrassedly, "This servant is now yours." "It's inevitable that I feel a bit guilty when I see the empress." Princess Ning smiled coldly. "That's true. If the empress finds out that you betrayed His Majesty, this princess won't be able to keep your life. So you have to be careful. Don't let this princess not take your life, but the empress will." Eunuch Wei agreed fawningly, "Yes, yes." "How is His Majesty?" Princess Ning asked haughtily. Eunuch Wei thought to himself, "You really have shed all pretenses. You don't even bother to pretend. Where is the affection between siblings? Even Princess Xinyang treats His Majesty better than you." Eunuch Wei replied, "He still seems to be unconscious." Princess Ning and took out a bottle of medicine from her wide sleeve. This servant will do it. Eunuch Wei said politely. You. Princess Ning and looked at him suspiciously. Eunuch Wei said, His Majesty hasn't washed in 2 days and is a bit disheveled. The princess is precious. It's better for this servant to do it. You can watch from the side. If this servant doesn't feed him properly, you can remind this servant. Princess Ningen looked at the slovenly emperor and pursed her lips. She handed the bottle to Eunuch Wei. Okay, you do it. Eunuch Wei took it and pulled out the cork. He carefully and nervously reached out to grab the emperor's chin. His hand couldn't help but tremble slightly. It was obvious that he was very nervous. However, this nervousness wouldn't arouse suspicion. After all, this was the first time someone had offended the emperor's body. Anyone would be afraid. Princess Ningen stared unblinkingly at Eunuch Wei as he carefully poured the medicine into the emperor's mouth. She smiled faintly. You poured it better than me. Not a single drop spilled. Eunuch Wei smiled but didn't say anything. He looked scared and servile. Princess Ningen was successfully pleased. She couldn't help but laugh. That's enough. Your head is firmly on your neck. Even if you spill it, I won't kill you. If Empress Xiao wants to kill you, I will protect you. Do you know why? Eunuch Wei naturally wouldn't say that it was because the princess was kind and benevolent. Wouldn't that be hitting the horse's hoof? Eunuch Wei smiled mockingly. It's because this servant is His Majesty's steward. There are some things that His Majesty needs this servant to convey. This servant is still somewhat useful to the princess. Princess Ningen sneered. You're smart. Eunuch Wei said, That's right. Princess, shouldn't you avoid coming to Pure Flower's palace in the future? If the Empress finds out, Princess Ningen said carelessly, if she finds out, just say that I'm here to visit Imperial Brother. Imperial Brother and I have a close sibling relationship. Why would the Empress suspect me? Eunuch Wei said sincerely, That's because you came openly. The Empress won't suspect you. If you keep coming here secretly and get caught by the Empress isn't stupid. Why did Princess Ningen come here secretly? Wasn't it to drug the Emperor while avoiding everyone? There weren't many people at this time. When she thought of this, Princess Ningen realized that the palace servants weren't here tonight. Where did they all go? She asked in confusion. I sent them away because I did something bad. Eunuch Wei broke out in a cold sweat, but his expression didn't change as he said, I calculated that the princess might come at this time, so I sent them away in advance. Princess Ningen looked at Eunuch Wei and laughed. No wonder Imperial Brother thinks so highly of you. Eunuch Wei, you're truly meticulous. Eunuch Wei said with a sincere expression, It's this servant's duty to share the master's worries. If this servant wants to live, I naturally have to show the princess my abilities. Princess Ningen smiled. Good. After this matter is done, whether or not you can live will depend on how much this princess likes you. Eunuch Wei said, This servant will be willing to sacrifice my life for the princess. Princess Ningen coldly hooked the corners of her lips. All right, you go guard outside. I have something to say to Imperial Brother. Remember, don't let anyone in. Yes. All right. Princess, please give your orders. Where is my Imperial Brother's Imperial Jade Seal? Eunuch Wei froze. Princess Ningen looked at him with a faint smile. Just now you said that you would sacrifice your life for me. Now you're not willing to give me the Imperial Jade Seal? Eunuch Wei braced himself and went to the small study in the bedchamber. He opened a secret compartment, took out the Imperial Jade Seal, and handed it to Princess Ningen with both hands. Princess Ningen smiled proudly. Go out. Eunuch Wei looked back at the unconscious His Majesty, then turned and left the bedchamber. Princess Ningen took the Imperial Jade Seal and sat down next to the Emperor. Her other hand took out a bright yellow Imperial Edict from her wide sleeve. In Zhao country, the Emperor's Imperial Edict was mostly dictated by the Emperor. Hanlin officials wrote the edict with a little rhetoric. Finally, It was presented to the emperor to be stamped. But there were also special cases. For example, the emperor wrote his own edict, or appointed someone to write the edict. Imperial brother, you must want to know what happened today. Why don't I tell you? There's progress in the case of Sun Ping's assassination of Imperial brother. You can't imagine who the mastermind behind Sun Ping is. It's Imperial mother. I didn't expect it either. Imperial mother loves you so much. How could she let someone kill you? But there are witnesses and evidence. Imperial mother can't overturn the case this time. Who is investigating the case? It's the Minister of the Supreme Court and the Empress's sister-in-law. Imperial brother knows the temper of the Empress sister-in-law. Hearing that Imperial mother had done such a terrible thing, the Empress sister-in-law made a prompt decision and ordered the Imperial guards to put Imperial mother under house arrest in Rancho Palace. The Empress sister-in-law also told me to ask Imperial brother how to deal with Imperial mother. What? Imperial brother wants to kill Imperial mother? That's not appropriate. Imperial mother raised Imperial brother for a while. How could Imperial brother kill his mother? Ah, I forgot. Imperial brother has already done it. Wasn't Imperial mother killed by Imperial brother? Thinking about it, Imperial brother won't even bat an eyelid if he kills Imperial mother, right? Princess Ning An's smile made people shiver. It was as if she was possessed. But in the next moment, her smile disappeared. She said coldly, Imperial mother was killed by you all. You have the face to ask me if I have any resentment? Imperial brother, how about I kill your Imperial mother and then ask you if you have any resentment? The unconscious emperor's body suddenly began to tremble slightly. His hands and eyes under his eyelids seemed to be violently struggling and shaking. He was like a beast trying to break free of its shackles and cages, even if the price was his own flesh and blood. Ha! Princess Ning An held him down with one hand. She said mockingly, killing her is too easy for her. It is better to let her become a nun and taste the pain my Imperial mother suffered. Then let her watch as her son dies tragically in front of her. Let her watch as the country she protected falls bit by bit into the hands of others. Isn't this worse than death? The emperor's entire body trembled violently. There was no pity in Princess Ning An's eyes. She withdrew her hand from the emperor and stood up. Taking the imperial edict, she left the bedchamber. She threw another bottle of medicine to Eunuch Wei. Give him another dose at night. Eunuch Wei looked at the imperial edict in her hand. His pupils contracted. He didn't dare ask more. He lowered his head and took it with both hands. Yes. Princess Ning An raised her chin and said, His Majesty just woke up. This is the imperial edict he asked me to write for him. Empress Dowager Zhuang killed the emperor and rebelled. She is disgraceful and will go to Taiping Temple to become a nun. She is not allowed to return to the palace without being summoned. Eunuch Wei, come with me to Rancho Palace to issue the imperial edict now. Eunuch Wei's expression changed. Princess Ning An looked at him coldly. Go or die. Eunuch Wei trembled as he took the imperial edict. He didn't believe that His Majesty would do anything to Empress Dowager Zhuang. The mother and son had already buried the hatchet. His Majesty would rather die than hurt the Empress Dowager. This was clearly. Princess Ning An said coldly, Don't challenge my patience. If you don't go, you can change to someone else. Eunuch Wei's chest rolled. I can't die. If I die and she changes to someone else to His Majesty's side, His Majesty will be even more doomed. Eunuch Wei's eyes were red. He said in a trembling voice, Go. I will go to Rancho Palace to issue the edict now. Eunuch Wei followed Princess Ning An to Rancho Palace. Empress Xiao ordered that no one could enter Rancho Palace to visit Empress Dowager Zhuang. However, seeing the imperial edict was like seeing His Majesty. Therefore, Eunuch Wei and Princess Ning An were not among those who were stopped. The imperial edict has arrived, Eunuch Wei sang. There was no response from Rancho Palace. Eunuch Wei sang again, The imperial edict has arrived. only the palace people came out. Princess Ning and looked at the closed bedroom. Mother, His Majesty has an imperial edict. Empress Dowager Zhuang didn't seem to want to pay attention to people. Since ancient times, no emperor had ever given an imperial edict to the Empress Dowager. This was the first time since the beginning of time. It was reasonable for Empress Dowager Zhuang to ignore it. Eunuch Wei shouted the imperial edict again. Princess Ning frowned. She walked forward and pushed open the red hollow door. She saw an empty bedroom. Where was Empress Dowager Zhuang? Digression, Great Aunt. Aya, I can finally play cards all night. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated faster. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels with connotations that can't be found on the internet are all here. https://www.zhbqg.com/89642_8964826/1086842223. HTML Genius remembered this site's address in 1 second. www.zhbqg.com Biku Gu mobile reading website, m. zhbqg.com. Chapter 564. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated faster. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels with content that can't be found online are all available here. Eunuch Wei secretly breathed a sigh of relief. Princess Ning, who was frozen in place, was not so happy. Her eyes turned cold. Eunuch Wei. I'm here. Eunuch Wei collected his emotions and immediately turned into a lackey. Princess, what orders do you have? Princess Ning ordered faintly. Go and find my mother. Yes. Eunuch Wei responded and searched Rancho Palace 3 times with the imperial guards. The rest of the palace people were all there, except for Empress Dowager Zhuang and Eunuch Qin. Go and ask those palace people. Princess Ning said. I asked, but they don't know. Eunuch Wei said. Princess Ning looked at him coldly. Eunuch Wei blocked the view of the imperial guards and whispered, Princess, we can't use torture in Rancho Palace. It's too conspicuous. Besides, it's the Empress's job to organize the harem. If she oversteps her authority, it'll be easy for others to use against her. Princess Ning took a deep breath and slowly suppressed her anger. Go and call Commander Fu. Yes. After Commander Fu came, Princess Ning asked him, How did you guard Rancho Palace? My mother suddenly disappeared. Didn't you notice? I don't know if something happened to my mother and she was taken away by thieves. This. Commander Fu was at a loss. To be honest, he really didn't know. He saw Empress Dowager Zhuang taking a walk in the courtyard in the afternoon. How did she disappear after dinner? When was the last time you saw my mother? Princess Ning asked. Commander Fu said truthfully, It was in the afternoon, around 5 o'clock. The Empress Dowager was taking a walk in the courtyard and then she went back to her bedroom. I was only responsible for guarding and couldn't disturb her. In other words, the imperial guards could only surround Rancho Palace and couldn't watch Empress Dowager Zhuang closely. But then again, they were guarding so tightly. How did the Empress Dowager disappear? The moon was dark and the wind was strong. A figure swept onto the roof where the cold wind was whistling and nimbly jumped on the eaves and walls in the dark night. Not long after, the figure entered Jadewater Alley and landed in Gu Jiao and Xiao Heng's home. It was not early now, so Yao Shi and the children had all gone to bed. Only Gu Jiao, Xiao Heng, and the old chancellor were still sitting in the central room. Hearing the commotion in the courtyard, Gu Jiao stood up. Xiao Heng walked over before her and opened the door. Gu Changfeng carried a person on his back as he entered, looking travel-worn. Panting heavily, he said, I'm so tired, so tired. It's too far from the palace. Xiao Hang looked in the direction of the courtyard and closed the door behind Gu Chengfeng. Gu Chengfeng carefully placed Empress Dowager Zhuang on the chair. "Be careful." The old chancellor stretched out his hand to support him. "Are you freezing?" Empress Dowager Zhuang ignored him. He took a closer look, and his expression changed. Gu Chengfeng turned around and pulled at his collar while looking at the unconscious Empress Dowager Zhuang. Is the Empress Dowager asleep? Could it be that she was knocked out by him? Well, he was indeed a bit fast just now. Zhuang Jins, Zhuang Jins, Zhuang Jins. The old chancellor called a few times, and his heart tightened. Could it be that something happened? Gu Jiao bent down and approached her grandaunt. "Grandaunt, we need one more." Empress Dowager Zhuang instantly woke up, opened her eyes, and sat up. "Where?" Then she really went to play the Yi card. Everyone looked at her vigorous figure with her sleeves rolled up, ready to fight for 300 rounds, and the corners of their mouths twitched. Gu Chengfeng. Has she been looking forward to playing cards for a long time? Princess Ning took Eunuch Wei to Chenkuan Palace to report to her about the Imperial Edict and Ranshou Palace. Empress Xiao put down the half-read account book in her hand and said to Princess Ning indifferently, "If there is such a thing in the future, you better inform me first." Princess Ning bowed. "Yes, sister-in-law." Eunuch Wei broke out in a cold sweat for Empress Xiao. Empress Xiao called Eunuch Su. "You go and tell Commander Fu that no matter if Empress Dowager left by herself or was kidnapped, he must find her, both in the palace and outside the palace." "Yes." Eunuch Su responded. Empress Xiao glanced at the two indifferently and said, "Princess Ning, you go back first." Eunuch Wei, stay. Ning, please excuse me. Princess Ning bowed, took a few steps back, and brushed past Eunuch Wei. Eunuch Wei looked straight ahead and maintained the posture of bowing. Princess Ning also didn't have the slightest change and left Chenkuan Palace. Empress Xiao looked at the imperial edict in her hand and looked at Eunuch Wei seriously. "I ask you, did His Majesty really wake up just now?" Eunuch Wei said, "Yes." Empress Xiao suspiciously said, "When His Majesty was issuing the imperial edict, you were always there?" Eunuch Wei nodded. "Yes, I served him with the brush and ink." After finishing the edict, His Majesty exhausted his vitality and fell asleep again. Empress Xiao frowned. She could be suspicious of anyone, but she could still trust Eunuch Wei. Empress Xiao sighed. "I understand. Keep the imperial edict well and take good care of His Majesty. The next time His Majesty wakes up, remember to send someone to inform me first." "I will remember." After leaving Chenkuan Palace, Eunuch Wei headed in the direction of Pure Flowers Palace. He hadn't taken a few steps when he saw a beautiful figure under a large tree. He jumped in fright. "Princess." Princess Ning turned around with a smile that wasn't a smile. Eunuch Wei blinked and bowed. "Princess," the Empress just asked. "There's no need to tell me. I don't think you have the guts to betray me in front of the Empress." "Yes, yes." Eunuch Wei smiled embarrassedly. "Then the Princess is waiting for me here." "This." Princess Ning tossed him a porcelain bottle. "Tomorrow's medicine. Give it to His Majesty at dinner time." Eunuch Wei's eyes flashed. "Ah, yes, this servant will definitely do as instructed." Princess Ning chuckled. "If you can't." Eunuch Wei shook his head like a rattledrum. "I don't dare, I don't dare. This servant's life is in the princess's hands. If the princess tells this servant to go east, this servant doesn't dare to go west." Princess Ning's lips hooked coldly. "It's good that you know. All right, hurry and go serve Imperial Brother. This medicine isn't foolproof. If he really wakes up," Eunuch Wei hurriedly said, "this servant won't let anyone discover that His Majesty is awake. This servant will immediately notify the princess." "It's good that you know." After saying this, Princess Ning calmly returned to Jade Cloud's hall. After confirming that she was far away, Eunuch Wei let out a long sigh of relief and quickly returned to Pure Flowers Palace. "It's been so long. I wonder how the swim bladder in His Majesty's mouth is doing?" Did he sprinkle the medicine? Did he swallow it? Eunuch Wei arrived in front of the dragon bed and sent the palace servants away. He then pried open the emperor's mouth and slowly took out the swim bladder. The medicine inside was still there. Eunuch Wei's heart relaxed. I have to quickly take care of it. Eunuch Wei took the swim bladder and walked out. He vaguely felt like he had forgotten something, but he couldn't remember what it was. The immobile emperor, our underpants. There's something in our underpants. There was no wall in the world that didn't have a crack. The news of Empress Dowager Zhuang colluding with Minister Xing to murder the emperor quickly spread through the capital. The civil and military officials and the citizens of the capital never expected that the mastermind behind the scenes would be Empress Dowager Zhuang. But if one carefully thought back to the years when Empress Dowager Zhuang controlled the court and suppressed the emperor, it wasn't hard to accept the fact that she was the mastermind. The people began to voice a crusade against Empress Dowager Zhuang, but the Zhuang family actually remained silent at such a critical moment. Grand Tutor Zhuang also claimed that he was sick and didn't attend court. This caused Empress Dowager Zhuang's reputation and situation to worsen. Grandfather! Royal Prince angrily rushed to Grand Tutor Zhuang's courtyard. The guards at the door couldn't stop him even if they wanted to. Grand Tutor Zhuang was practicing calligraphy in the study. When he heard his grandson's voice, he didn't even lift his eyelids. He dipped the tip of his brush in ink and said, "Shouldn't you be on duty in the inner court at this time?" Royal Prince did go to the inner court, but he immediately returned after hearing some things. Thanks to his status, no one in the inner court dared to stop him. He came to the desk and looked at Grand Tutor Zhuang, who was concentrating on practicing calligraphy. He understood that he wasn't really sick these days. He just didn't attend court on purpose. "Grandfather, have you heard about Grand Aunt?" he asked. Grand Tutor Zhuang didn't look at him. He wrote the character for Shan. "This isn't something you should worry about." Royal Prince looked at Grand Tutor Zhuang with burning eyes. "This isn't something I should worry about." "Then what about grandfather?" "Grandfather, aren't you worried? Something so serious happened to the Empress Dowager. Shouldn't grandfather come out to protect her reputation and go to the Supreme Court and Ministry of Justice to find evidence of her being slandered?" Grand Tutor Zhuang's brush paused. He glanced at him. "How do you know it's slander?" Royal Prince said seriously, "The Empress Dowager wouldn't do such a thing. If she wanted His Majesty's life, she wouldn't have waited until now. Grandfather knows the Empress Dowager's methods better than I do." Grand Tutor Zhuang asked, "So what?" Royal Prince looked deeply at Grand Tutor Zhuang. "Grandfather, are you planning to stand by and watch?" Grand Tutor Zhuang didn't admit or deny it. "I'm doing this for the Zhuang family." Royal Prince sneered. "For the Zhuang family? What for the Zhuang family? Without the Empress Dowager's protection, can the Zhuang family still be the Zhuang family of the past?" Grand Tutor Zhuang slammed the brush on the table. "Then do you think the Empress Dowager is still the Empress Dowager of the past? She drew a clear line between her and the Zhuang family long ago." Royal Prince clenched his fists and said bitterly, "So grandfather just watched and didn't save her? She's your younger sister. After her biological father sold his daughter and sent her to that man-eating palace, after she lost her only flesh and blood, after she had licked her wounds and racked her brains for the Zhuang family for so many years, her grandfather had abandoned her just like that. Grandfather only remembers the year she drew a clear line between her and the Zhuang family, but he doesn't remember the decades when the Zhuang family ate her flesh and blood." Grand Tutor Zhuang said angrily, "Enough." Royal Prince wasn't intimidated by Grand Tutor Zhuang's anger. He looked disappointedly at Grand Tutor Zhuang, whom he had respected for so many years. "Grandfather, when I was 8 years old, you sent me to Chen country as a hostage. The Empress Dowager tried her best to stop you. She said that it was enough for the Zhuang family to have her and that there was no need to sacrifice more people. What did grandfather tell me?" "Grandfather, you said that it was too hard for the Empress Dowager to support the Zhuang family alone. She couldn't bear everything alone. So I went. I was humiliated all those years in Chen country, but I never regretted it. But now, I regret it. Grandfather, you didn't do it for the Empress Dowager or the Zhuang family. You only did it for yourself. These words were harsh, but Grand Tutor Zhuang was past the age to argue with the younger generation. He suppressed his anger and continued to write a few words. He said, "Hang you're my most outstanding grandson and the future heir of the Zhuang family. I hope you can understand your identity." Ha, identity. Royal Prince and laughed at himself and didn't say anything else to Grand Tutor Zhuang. He had already understood his grandfather's meaning. It was useless to say more. It was better to save his energy. Grand Tutor Zhuang called out to him, "Where are you going?" Royal Prince and turned around and said coldly, "Grandfather doesn't care about the Empress Dowager. Then I can only save the Empress Dowager myself. I'm going to reverse the verdict for the Empress Dowager." Grand Tutor Zhuang threatened, "If you dare to take a step out of the Zhuang family, don't come back to see me again." Royal Prince and clenched his fingers and stepped over the threshold. Grand Tutor Zhuang said in a low voice, "I mean what I say. Zhuang Yuheng, your identity was given by me. Your power and status were also given by me. Without me, without the identity of the Zhuang family's legitimate grandson, you, Zhuang Yuheng, are nothing in the capital. Think carefully. It's not hard for you to walk out of the manor today, but it won't be so easy for you to come back in the future." Royal Prince and heard this and retracted his foot. Grand Tutor Zhuang raised his eyebrows in satisfaction. "Don't go to the cabinet these few days. Stay at home." Before he could say the words rest, Royal Prince and lifted the hem of his robe and knelt on the ground. He put his hands on the ground and kowtowed heavily. With just one kowtow, his forehead turned red. "Thank you, grandfather, for teaching me." Grand Tutor Zhuang was stunned. Royal Prince An's eyes turned red. He kowtowed for the second time. "Thank you, grandfather, for teaching me." Blood seeped out of his forehead and his eyes were watery. Grand Tutor Zhuang's expression changed. He shouted, "Zhuang Yuheng." Royal Prince and didn't stop. He kowtowed for the third time. His hot tears fell onto the cold floor. "Thank you, grandfather, for your love. Yuheng is unfilial." After he finished speaking, he stood up with his forehead full of blood. He turned around with a choked voice and ran into the night without looking back. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated faster. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels with content that can't be found online are all available here. https://www.zhbqg.com/89642_826/1086622452. HTML Genius memorized this website's address in 1 second. www.zhbqg.com Biku Gu mobile reading website, zhbqg.com. Chapter 565. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated faster. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels with content that can't be found online are all available here. Princeton regretted it after he came out for a stroll. It was so cold and the road was so dark. He should have brought some money and warm clothes before leaving home. Now, he was penniless, without a carriage, and even his trusted secret guard Wu Yang had been detained by his grandfather. Wu Yang was the person who went to Chen with him. He was 7 years older than him. He was both his secret guard and his playmate. He always thought that Wu Yang was completely loyal to him after going through so many hardships. Reality gave him a cruel blow. Unknowingly, he had wandered around the capital for several hours and fell several times. There were still many people on the street. However, for the first time in his life, he felt that the bustle had nothing to do with him. He walked through the busy streets and came to a small courtyard where he used to live. However, He was stopped by the servant inside when he was about to enter. The servant said awkwardly, "Prince, I just received orders from the Zhuang family. You are not allowed to enter the house." Very good. Very good. He couldn't even stay in the courtyard. If he couldn't stay here, there were other places. Princeton went to 3 residences under the Zhuang family's name in a row. Without exception, he was rejected. Princeton couldn't even enter the restaurants and inns where he was treated as a guest. First, he didn't have money. This wasn't the main point. In the past, he didn't have money and could do whatever he wanted in the capital. There were many people fighting to pay him. The second point was the main point. Grand Tutor Zhuang ordered people to send messages to the restaurants and inns he went to. How did Grand Tutor Zhuang know his past like the back of his hand? Thank you, Wu Yong. After being rejected countless times, Princeton looked at the quiet sky and laughed until his shoulders trembled. His grandfather was right. Without the identity of the Zhuang family's grandson, he was nothing. Grand Tutor Zhuang probably wanted to use this method to force Royal Princeton back. Royal Princeton had been a sensible and obedient child since he was young. He had suffered and suffered, but he had not faced all of this alone. He had Wu Yong and many masters by his side. He had the Empress Dowager and Grand Tutor Zhuang behind him. Now, he had nothing left. He couldn't even find a place to stay. It was sad and laughable. However, there was one thing that he was very thankful for, and that was that Gu Jiao had cured his eyes. He was no longer night blind. Otherwise, it would be an extravagant hope for him to even walk on the streets. The biting cold wind cut his face like a knife. At first, he could still feel the pain, but gradually, he became numb. After walking for a while, even his mind was numb. He had no idea where he was. When he realized where he was, his eyebrows twitched, and he turned around to leave. Unfortunately, it was too late. A small mushroom head poked out from the door. "Are you looking for someone?" Royal Princeton opened his mouth. The courtyard door was pushed open by the little bean, and the candlelight in the courtyard came in. The little bean saw his face clearly and said, "You're the big brother who came to my house. We've met in the countryside. Do you still remember me, brother?" Royal Princeton was speechless. When Gu Jiao's family was still in the countryside, he went to their house. In order to meet the Empress Dowager, he went there more than once. But, how long had it been? How could the little bean still remember him? Then, before Royal Princeton passed by and didn't disturb them, the little bean rushed into the courtyard and shouted, "Brother-in-law, there's a guest at home." Royal Princeton was shocked. Xiao Hang came over and said to little Jing Kong, "Do you want to sneak out to play again?" Little Jing Kong blinked guiltily. "I didn't." After saying that, he ran away. Xiao Hang looked at Royal Prince N, who was trying his best to stay calm but was actually at a loss. He didn't know what to say. Royal Prince N also felt guilty. Although he wasn't an adult according to the customs of the Zhao kingdom, he was going to get married and the ceremony would be brought forward. Soon, he would be a real man. Men were all prideful, especially in front of love rivals and rivals. Royal Prince N made up his mind not to let Xiao Hang see that he was a stray dog. He straightened his back and said with a strong aura, "I'm just passing by. I'm not here to be a guest. I'll leave first." Xiao Heng looked at him deeply and said, "Come in and sit." Royal Prince N was stunned. Were they close? He was just passing by. Xiao Lulang actually invited him to sit in the room? "Fine, I'll sit. Who's afraid of who?" Royal Prince N nodded without changing his expression and entered the room with Xiao Hang with a cold face. At this time, the young men were running around in the courtyard. The front and back doors of the central room were open and there was no fire. Xiao Hang invited Royal Prince N to sit on the chair by the table and poured a cup of hot tea for him. Royal Prince N had been wandering the streets for the whole afternoon and half the night. He was cold and thirsty. He took the teacup and slowly took a sip. His stomach instantly warmed up. Xiao Heng sat opposite him. "You haven't eaten yet, right?" "I've eaten," Royal Prince N said stubbornly. Gulp, he growled alone. Royal Prince An's face turned red. Xiao Hang called Yuya over and had her go to the kitchen to cook a bowl of noodles. Yuya looked back at Royal Prince An a few times. Royal Prince An thought, even if I'm handsome, you don't have to keep looking at me, right? Xiao Lu Lang, your servant girl doesn't know the rules. Grand Aunt went to Auntie Lu's house to play cards. Old Chancellor went to serve tea and his private savings. They were not at home. Yao Shi carried Gu Xiaobao to watch Grand Aunt play cards. Gu Xiaobao was excited when he saw the cards. Yao Shi didn't know why. Royal Prince An drank his tea and looked around. Jiao Jiao is not here. Xiao Heng exposed him. Gu Jiao went to the clinic. Indeed, she was not here. Royal Prince An drank his tea to hide his awkwardness. Yu Ye cooked a bowl of noodles with smoked bamboo shoots and bacon. It was accompanied by a small dish of pickled vegetables. Royal Prince An was the legitimate grandson of the Zhuang family. He usually ate all kinds of delicacies. However, he didn't know why, but he felt that this was the best noodles he had ever eaten. After a bowl of noodles, Royal Prince An felt comfortable all over. Even his frozen toes were warm. He didn't leave a single drop of soup. He also finished all the pickled vegetables. He drank the tea and ate the noodles. If he stayed any longer, Royal Prince An would feel embarrassed. Just as he was about to leave, little Jing Kong's frantic voice came from the room. This kind of voice usually only happened when Gu Jiao was out. When Gu Jiao was at home, he was very obedient. Sit for a while. I'll go take a look. Xiao Heng got up and went to the west room. Little Jing Kong couldn't find anything again. He rummaged through his little treasure chest. His toys were scattered all over the floor. What are you looking for? Xiao Heng asked. Little Jing Kong put his hands on his waist and stomped his feet. Xiao Jin. My Xiao Jin is missing. It's being naughty again. Xiao Heng got down and found the golden abacus under the bed. Then, he pulled little Jing Kong to clean up the things on the floor. Royal Prince An didn't mean to peek. It was just that he was facing the west room. It was hard not to see him. He didn't expect that an official from the imperial court would do something that only the servants would do at home. Wasn't there a maid? It's late. You should take a bath. I don't want to take a bath. Sure enough, when Gu Jiao wasn't here, he wasn't a good baby who liked to take a bath. Xiao Heng didn't want to spoil him. Xiao Heng came out to get water. He pointed to the study room and said to Royal Prince An, I'll give Jing Kong a bath first. Why don't you sit in the study room? It's warm there. Forget it. It was hard to refuse such kindness. He would just sit there for a while. When Xiao Lu Lang finished his work, he would bid him farewell. Thinking of this, Commandery Prince An entered Xiao Heng's study. Before Royal Prince An came, Xiao Heng had been in the study room. Therefore, he lit a brazier and it was burning brightly. Xiao Heng went to the kitchen to get hot water. He carried it back and forth a few times. He also chopped some firewood and threw it into the stove. Royal Prince An was baffled. He worked in 2 yamens during the day and had to work at home. Why didn't he hire more servants? Wasn't he good at earning money? When he was in the Imperial College, he helped people recite poems and compose essays. Soon, Royal Prince An found that Xiao Heng was doing far more than that. There were a few homework books on the desk. Most of them were about little Jing Kong. The other half were about Gu Yan and Gu Xiaoshun. So Xiao Lu Lang had to tutor his 3 brothers-in-law? Beside the homework was a thick stack of paper. The ink on the top few pages was still wet. It was obvious that they were written tonight. Royal Prince An glanced at it and was surprised to find that he didn't recognize the words on it. He didn't say that he was proficient in the 6 languages, but he knew a little. These weren't the words of the lower 3 kingdoms or the upper 3 kingdoms. Could it be Sanskrit? Royal Prince An didn't know Sanskrit, but he had seen Sanskrit Buddhist scriptures before. They didn't look like this. Amidst the screams and howls, Xiao Heng forcefully bathed the little boy. He put on his clothes and threw him into the bed. Xiao Hang took the bathwater out and cleaned up the room before returning to the study. Royal Prince and looked at the paper in his hand and said embarrassedly, "I just looked at it casually." "It's fine. Take a look." Xiao Hang entered the room. Royal Prince and pointed to the room next door. Is he like this every day?" Xiao Hang nodded. "He's like this when Jiao Jiao isn't here." Taking a bath was like fighting a war. Royal Prince and thought about how he was annoyed by the noise next door. It was hard to imagine how Xiao Lulang survived every day. Thinking about it this way, Xiao Lulang didn't have it easy either. "Alright, what are these?" Royal Prince and looked at the stack of papers on the table and asked. "Calculation," Xiao Heng said. "Calculation?" Royal Prince and frowned strangely. Xiao Hang looked at the paper in his hand. "The one you're looking at is for calculating the ancestral rate." Royal Prince An's expression became even more strange. Isn't ancestral rate calculated using the circle cutting method? He knew about the circle cutting method, but this obviously wasn't. Xiao Hang explained, "This is another method." Royal Prince An was still confused. Using these strange patterns? Xiao Hang thought seriously for a moment. Strictly speaking, they should be another language. Royal Prince An, another language? Outside of the 6 states? Tujue language? Xiao Hang, no, the Tujue uses the Jin language. There are some differences, but it's more or less the same. The reason had to be explained from the ancestors of the Tujue and the Jin. At that time, it wasn't the Jin, but the previous dynasty of the Jin. It was rumored that it was originally part of the Tujue, but later on, the tribe became independent. However, it was also said that the Tujue was part of the previous dynasty of the Jin. This saying was recorded in the history books, but history belonged to the victors. Who could say that the previous dynasty of the Jin didn't let the historians change the history books? Royal Prince An was suddenly interested. He lowered his status and asked Xiao Hang for advice. If it was in the past, he definitely wouldn't be able to lower his face. Tonight. Who knew what was wrong with him tonight? Xiao Heng never hid anything. As long as someone sincerely asked for advice, he would tell them everything he knew. He was willing to teach them everything. He started with simple numbers and slowly talked about the basic formulas. Royal Prince An didn't know that arithmetic could be so interesting. He seemed to have opened the door to a new world and fell into it. Moreover, he seemed to understand why the students of the Imperial College and the Hanlin Academy were willing to ask Xiao Lulang for advice. Xiao Lulang never showed off his literary talent when teaching. What he taught was real knowledge that people could understand. Until now, he finally realized that Xiao Lulang didn't rely on connections to get to where he was today. Everything he had was obtained with his own ability. "What are you laughing at?" Xiao Heng asked. Royal Prince An smiled. "When you became the new top scholar, I wasn't convinced by you." Xiao Heng looked at him. "Are you convinced by me now?" Royal Prince An opened his mouth and nodded. "You can say that." Xiao Heng put down the paper in his hand and saw through the appearance. He hit the nail on the head. "You can stay overnight. 1 tael of silver per night." Royal Prince An choked. Cough, talking about money hurts feelings. Xiao Hang said calmly, "On credit, 30% interest." There was interest? Wait, how did you know I wanted to pay on credit? Royal Prince An coughed softly. In which room?" Xiao Heng raised his finger. "Next door." Royal Prince An's face darkened. He couldn't lose face in front of Xiao Lulang. "Let's make it clear first. I'm not homeless. It's just that I can't refuse your kindness. I'll reluctantly stay for 1 night." As he spoke, he went to the old chancellor's side like a proud peacock. The big rooms were all full. There was only one small room left. Until he crossed the threshold, he maintained the pride and nobility that a royal prince should have. After Xiao Hang left and closed the door for him, he subconsciously looked at himself in the bronze mirror. In the middle of the night, there was a series of screams that sounded like a pig being slaughtered. This beggar with messy hair, a straw stuck in his head, a face full of dirt, his clothes torn open, and his sleeves torn 3 times was not him. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated faster and more complete. Millions of novels are free to read. There are novels with connotations that can't be found on the internet here. https://www.zhbqg.com/89642_826/1086614558. HTML Genius remembered the website address in 1 second. www.zhbqg.com Biku Gu mobile reading website, zhbqg.com. Chapter 566. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. The novel is more complete and updated faster. Millions of novels are free to read. There are all the novels that can't be found on the internet here. After Princeton died on the spot for a full 3 seconds, Xiao Hang asked Yu Yue to send a bottle of medicine. Princeton wanted to die even more. Gu Jiao treated Mo Chenxue and Hua Xiao's injuries in the medical center and returned to Bishui Alley with a small medicine box. Hua Xiao was originally next door to Mo Chenxue, but in order to better monitor Hua Xiao, Mo Chenxue directly asked Gu Jiao to put the two of them in the same room. It was not Gu Jiao's room. Mo Chenxue didn't want others to live in Gu Jiao's room. Hua Xiao lay on the small bed. After using the bone-softening powder, she felt uncomfortable all over. She could only stare coldly at Mo Chenxue on the big bed. Mo Chenxue, you traitor. Mo Chenxue didn't speak. She sat at the head of the bed, back against the soft pillow, silently weaving the red rope she learned from little Zhongli. Hua Xiao laughed and said, "What? You dare to do but don't dare to admit it? Master shouldn't have trusted you so much. It was the Lodge Master who picked you up. In the end, you betrayed young Master." Mo Chenxue stopped weaving the red rope in her hand and glanced at her. "Hua Xiao, what do you know?" Hua Xiao said coldly, "Then tell me, what don't I know? Or did I say something wrong?" Mo Chenxue paused. "You didn't say anything wrong." "Yes, I betrayed young Master." Some things were relieved when she admitted it. She didn't want to accept the fact that she betrayed young Master in the past, but when it really came to this point, there was nothing to argue about. She didn't carry out young Master's order. In everyone's eyes, she betrayed young Master. No one thought that she could actually jump out and testify against young Master. She didn't do so. She couldn't kill Gu Jiao. She chose to escape or die, but she couldn't push young Master to the death table. After all, young Master was her master. Mo Chenxue said softly, "Hua Xiao, do you know? I almost died that night. In order to gain Gu Jiao's trust, young Master ordered his men to be ruthless. I almost lost my life." Hua Xiao sneered, "Aren't you fine now? Young Master is certain that the Miracle Hands Hall can cure you." Mo Chenxue shook her head. "You don't understand. If she hadn't given me her blood, she wouldn't have been able to do anything." Hua Xiao said indifferently, "It's just a matter of sacrificing a few drops of blood." Hua Xiao was not a doctor. She didn't understand that not everyone's blood type could be transfused with each other. Obviously, the young Master of Immortal Music House didn't know, so the young Master really didn't care about her life or death. Mo Chenxue said indifferently, "I can't be bothered to talk to you." Women were generally like this. It would be fine if they had a good quarrel, but this kind of quarrel halfway through was like punching a few balls of cotton. Hua Xiao said angrily, "Humph, our lives are young Master's, even if we die for young Master, so what? You're just greedy for life and afraid of death." Mo Chenxue took a deep breath, got rid of the distracting thoughts, and continued to weave the red rope in her hand. Gu Jiao knew that she was an important witness, but Gu Jiao never forced her to testify against the young Master. She didn't even mention this request. If the young Master knew that she had the opportunity to testify against Gu Jiao, would the young master have scruples about whether she was willing or not, and whether she was embarrassed? Definitely not. She used to be like Hua Xiao, thinking that the whole meaning of life was to contribute to the master. She was not an independent individual, she was just a vassal of the master. Until she met Gu Zhao. How could Hua Xiao understand? She didn't get what she didn't want others to get, and she didn't believe that others could get it. No matter how Hua Xiao angered Emo Chenxue's words went in one ear and out the other, making Hua Xiao faint. Recently, there were a lot of cases in the capital, and they were reversed again and again. First, Xianle House colluded with the imperial princess, and then it was revealed that the mastermind behind the scenes was the Empress Dowager. The emperor wanted to punish the Empress Dowager, but who knew that the Empress Dowager disappeared? Minister Xing, as the Empress Dowager's henchman, was locked up in the Supreme Court. Assistant Minister Li made a meritorious report and temporarily replaced Minister Xing's position. To officially become Minister Xing, the emperor had to personally close the case, issue an edict, and a series of other procedures. The imperial court was in turmoil, and the people were uneasy. Grand Tutor Zhuang claimed that he was ill. The memorials to the imperial court were piled up like a mountain, and the pressure of the cabinet was all piled up on Grand Secretary Yuan's shoulders. The two assistants were both Grand Tutor Zhuang's confidants. This time, when something happened, the two of them were very negative. Fortunately, Grand Secretary Yuan was able to control them. It was just that it was a bit tiring, and for the first time, Grand Secretary Yuan had the idea of appointing a junior assistant. Under normal circumstances, the cabinet didn't appoint a junior assistant. After the Grand Secretary stepped down, one of the two assistants would be chosen to become the new Grand Secretary. Only when the two assistants weren't enough would the position of junior assistant be added. The interests of the junior assistant conflicted with those of the assistants, as well as the powerful chain of interests behind the assistants, because it would often encounter strong opposition from the cabinet ministers. However, it was indeed a type of revolutionary new method, and as a result, it received the emperor's support. The monarch and his ministers competed with each other, and in the end, they reached a clever balance, agreeing to establish a junior assistant. However, the position of junior assistant had many restrictions. First, the age couldn't exceed 20. Second, one had to be a scholar of 2 lists. Third, one had to have made great contributions to the court, or at least 2 years of experience as a Hanlin official. These conditions were too harsh, to the extent where no one had ever met them. No, it wasn't that there hadn't been anyone. The Zhuang family was Zhuang Yuheng, 20 years of age, a scholar of 2 lists, second place in the new imperial examination. He had previously taken the crown prince's place as a hostage in Chen country, making great contributions. However, on one hand, he was a member of the Zhuang family. On the other hand, Grand Secretary Yuan actually had another candidate he favored. Unfortunately, the conditions weren't met. Grand Secretary Yuan sighed regretfully. The two matters that gave Empress Xiao the most headaches recently were the emperor's illness and Empress Dowager Zhuang's whereabouts. The emperor's head was injured, and the imperial doctors couldn't say when the emperor would wake up. As for Empress Dowager Zhuang's whereabouts, there was no progress either. There were checkpoints at the city gates. How high were the city walls? How high were the walls of Ranshou Palace? Empress Xiao didn't believe that Empress Dowager Zhuang had the ability to fly out of the imperial city, so Empress Dowager Zhuang was definitely still in the city. Empress Xiao ordered Commander Fu to increase the search efforts. In the past few days, Princess Ning either stayed at Pure Flower's palace to accompany the emperor or went to Cunning Palace to pay respects to Empress Xiao. No one found her actions strange. One of her 2 backers in the imperial palace was gone, and the only remaining emperor was unconscious. If she didn't curry favor with Empress Xiao, how could she establish herself in the imperial palace in the future? In addition, her son Huang Fuxian didn't come out to cause trouble these days. She really was someone who understood the situation. In the afternoon, Princess Ning went to Empress Xiao's Cunning Palace again. Empress Xiao was checking on Qin Chuyu's homework in the warm room. Qin Chuyu was stuttering and absent-minded, giving Empress Xiao a headache. "Can you focus a bit more? I want to see Imperial Father," Qin Chuyu said pitifully. Didn't I already take you to see him? Qin Chuyu was the emperor's son. How could Empress Xiao not take him to see the emperor? She also took the crown prince. The crown prince was an adult. No matter how sad he was, he could only cry secretly. Qin Chuyu, on the other hand, would cry like a ghost and howl like a wolf when he pounced on the emperor. Those who didn't know would think that his imperial father had already passed away and he was mourning for his imperial father. Empress Xiao didn't dare to take him there anymore. A young eunuch stuck his head in at the door. Eunuch Su walked over and asked him a few questions. When he came back, he reported, "Empress, Princess Ning'an is here." Empress Xiao frowned. "Take the 7th prince to the study and let him carry him properly. I'll check on him later." "Yes." Eunuch Su took Qin Chuyu's hand and led him to the study. Princess Ning'an walked in. After returning to the imperial palace to recuperate, she lived a life of luxury. It was no longer as hard as it was at the border. Princess Ning'an's face had turned pale and her hands were much more tender. "How are your injuries?" Empress Xiao asked. She winked at the young maid. The young maid brought a stool and placed it next to Empress Xiao. Princess Ning'an looked at her right arm and said with a smile, "It's fine. Thank you for your concern. Sit down." Empress Xiao said. Princess Ning'an sat down slowly. The young maid served hot tea. Princess Ning'an took the teacup with her left hand and took a sip. She pretended to ask casually, "Sister-in-law, is there any news about my imperial mother?" Princess Ning'an and Empress Xiao used to have a good relationship. It was just that they hadn't seen each other for many years and Huang Fuxian always bullied Qin Chuyu. That was why Empress Xiao was dissatisfied with Princess Ning'an. Now Princess Ning'an had saved the emperor and treated her respectfully. Moreover, Princess Ning'an was on the emperor's side. This made Empress Xiao and Princess Ning'an less unhappy. Empress Xiao shook her head. "Not yet." Princess Ning'an paused and said, "Sister-in-law, I don't know if I should say something." Empress Xiao said, "Go ahead." Princess Ning'an said in a low voice, "A few days before the incident, I saw Lord Xiao in my imperial mother's study. He came for the case of Xian Luju." Empress Xiao frowned. Princess Ning'an continued, "I don't mean to suspect Lord Xiao. It's just that my imperial mother has a good relationship with Lord Xiao. Could it be?" Empress Xiao's eyes darkened. "Could it be what? Are you suspecting that Xiao Lulang has something to do with the assassination of the emperor, or that Xiao Lulang is harboring Empress Dowager Zhuang?" Princess Ning'an's eyes flashed with astonishment. Empress Xiao's good impression of Princess Ning'an disappeared. Xiao Lulang is the new top scholar promoted by the emperor. He is loyal to the emperor. It's impossible for him to collude with the Empress Dowager to harm the emperor. Are you kidding? His Majesty is Aheng's uncle, her uncle. Aheng will harm anyone but the emperor. Princess Ning'an lowered her eyes. "Sister-in-law, don't be agitated. I am too worried about my brother. I hope to find my imperial mother one day. After all, she cares for me. I hope to persuade her to repent and be saved." Empress Xiao said coldly, "In short, this matter has nothing to do with Xiao Lulang. I won't allow anyone to slander her by insinuations. Don't mention this again in the future. Otherwise, I won't be polite to you." Princess Ning'an looked at the tea in the teacup. Her tone was weak, but her eyes were calm. "Ning'an will remember." Empress Xiao pressed her aching temples and reached out to pick up the tea on the table. "Serve the tea and send the guest off." Princess Ning'an was very sensible and handed the tea to the little palace maid. She got up and bowed to Empress Xiao, saying, "Sister-in-law, Ning'an will go to visit my brother first. I will come to pay my respects to you tomorrow." And Empress Xiao responded faintly. Princess Ning'an was about to turn around when she thought of something. She said, "By the way, sister-in-law, the servants who served Xian at the border have arrived." At the time, the army left in a hurry. They had to say goodbye to their families, so they set off a few days later. "Can they continue to serve Xian? Empress Xiao said carelessly, "You can arrange it yourself." They were just servants. She could go to the Ministry of Internal Affairs to register them. She wouldn't make things difficult for the mother and son over such a small matter. Princess Ning glanced at the high and mighty Empress Xiao, but the latter didn't look at her directly. Princess Ning looked down, bowed, and left Kuan Ning Palace. Unexpectedly, on her way to Pure Flower's palace, she ran into Qin Chuyu, who had snuck out. Because he had snuck out, only Qin Chuyu was there. Princess Ning looked at him with narrowed eyes. Empress Xiao's arrogant attitude flashed through her mind. She coldly curled her lips and walked toward Qin Chuyu. "Little Qi, what are you doing?" "Auntie Ning En," Qin Chuyu greeted her. Although Huang Fuxian was annoying, Ning had never bullied Qin Chuyu. Princess Ning smiled and said, "Did you sneak out?" Qin Chuyu felt wronged. "Yes, they didn't allow me to see Imperial Father." Princess Ning asked again, "Did anyone see you on the way?" Qin Chuyu shook his head like a rattledrum. "No. I was very careful." Princess Ning An's smile deepened. "Are you sure?" "Yes." Qin Chuyu nodded. He was very sure. Princess Ning raised her hand and gently patted Qin Chuyu's head. She said gently, "Little Qi is really an amazing prince. You didn't even get discovered. It seems like no one knows that you came here." Qin Chuyu looked at her smile and for some reason, he felt scared. "Aunt, why is your smile so strange?" "I'm so scared." Princess Ning pinched his chubby little face. "Don't be scared. I'll take you to a place." Qin Chuyu decisively refused. "I'm not going. I want to see Imperial Father." Princess Ning said gently, "We're on the way to see your Imperial Father." Qin Chuyu thought for a moment. "Okay, then." Princess Ning took Qin Chuyu's chubby little hand and expressionlessly pulled him to the pond. The pond in the Imperial Palace wasn't as deep as the Imperial Liquid Pond, but it could still drown people. Qin Chuyu became more and more confused. "This isn't the way to the Imperial Palace. This is a shortcut." Princess Ning stopped at the edge of the pond. "Do you see what's over there?" "What?" Qin Chuyu took a step forward. Princess Ning stared at his back without blinking. She reached out her hand coldly and gave him a hard shove. "Mother." A demonic voice suddenly sounded not far away. Qin Chuyu would recognize the owner of this voice even if he turned into ashes. It was Huang Fuxian. That annoying little cousin. Ah! Qin Chuyu's hair stood on end. The fear of being bullied flooded his heart. Almost instinctively, he used his own unique secret, the peerless running technique. Whoosh! Qin Chuyu ran away. Princess Ning didn't expect the little chubby in front of her to run away. She wanted to pull back her hand, but it was too late. Her push missed and her body fell forward into the cold pond with a splash. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated faster and more frequently. Millions of novels are free to read. There are all kinds of novels that you can't find online. https://www.zhbqg.com/89642_896408846. HTML Genius memorized this website's address in 1 second. www.zhbqg.com Biku Pavilion's mobile reading website, zhbqg.com. Chapter 567. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated faster and more frequently. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels with content that can't be found online are all available here. The lake water in the first month was bone-chilling. Even though Princess Ning could swim, she was still frozen to the point of almost losing consciousness. Coupled with the heavy winter clothes, she couldn't swim at all. By the time Princess Ning finally managed to swim ashore, she was already half dead. The little fatty who caused her to fall into the water was long gone. Huang Fuxian didn't run away. He just sat in a wheelchair by the shore. Princess Ning lay in the grass, trembling and gasping for breath. After a long while, she finally had the strength to speak. "Who allowed you to come out?" Princess Ning had already grounded Huang Fuxian. Huang Fuxian said, "I came out of my own accord. They couldn't stop me." Huang Fuxian did whatever he wanted and threatened to kill her. Who in the palace could stop him? The injuries on Princess Ning's right arm and forehead were real. The injury on her forehead was lighter and had already healed. However, her right arm had been stabbed by a knife and needed several stitches. Just now, when she flopped in the water, the wound split open again. Blood seeped into her wet sleeves and dyed a large patch red. Princess Ning endured the piercing pain and gritted her teeth to get up. She walked shakily to Huang Fuxian and gasped, "You did it on purpose, didn't you?" Huang Fuxian met her cold gaze and said fearlessly, "I just saw Mother and wanted to say hello." Princess Ning raised a hand to slap Huang Fuxian. Unfortunately, she didn't have much strength left. Before the slap landed on Huang Fuxian's face, she fell to the ground first. When Lian came out to find Huang Fuxian and found this place, Princess Ning had already fainted. Princess Ning slept for 4 hours before waking up. The first thing she did when she opened her eyes was to teach Huang Fuxian a lesson. Princess, you should at least put on some clothes." Lian took the cloak and chased after her. "Don't come in." Princess Ning locked Lian outside the door. She ignored the pain from her wound and came to the bed aggressively. Just as she was about to vent her anger, she found that something was wrong. Huang Fuxian's condition was not very good. To be exact, it was very bad. His entire face was as pale as paper, and his forehead was covered in a thin layer of sweat. His consciousness seemed to be drifting. Princess Ning suddenly panicked. She changed her terrifying aura and sat down by the bed. She held Huang Fuxian's hand and touched his forehead. Xian, what's wrong with you? Don't scare me." Huang Fuxian was tortured half to death by the pain of his broken limbs, but he did not say a word. He just silently endured the pain of his flesh being pierced by the bones. Princess Ning choked and said, Xian, talk to your mother. Don't sleep. I don't want you to leave Mother too. Mother cannot lose you. What's wrong with you? Huh? What's wrong with you?" As she spoke, she turned around and shouted towards the door, "Imperial Physician! Summon the Imperial Physician!" Huang Fuxian finally opened his eyes and looked at her. He used most of his willpower to endure the pain and said weakly, "Stop, Mother." Princess Ning's emotions stopped abruptly. "What did you say?" Huang Fuxian's breath was drifting. "I will be filial to you for the rest of my life. I will be filial to you. I will not be angry with you. I will not make you angry. I will be your good son. Let's leave here. Go far away, to a place where no one knows. Just like when I was young, when I liked you." Princess Ning expressionlessly wiped the tears from the corners of her eyes. "They killed your father, killed your grandmother, and destroyed the great cause that should have belonged to you. I don't want those." Huang Fuxian grabbed her hand. The pain was eating away at him. His eyes were red. "I only want you. Let's leave here, okay?" "No." Princess Ning coldly withdrew her hand. She stood up and looked down at the pale Huang Fuxian. "Live well. When you grow up, leave an heir for your father." Then she turned and left the room. Lian came over with the Imperial Physician. She looked at her mistress strangely. "Princess, what's wrong?" Princess Ning didn't answer her. Instead, she said, "Let the Imperial Physician take a look." "Yes." Lian brought the Imperial Physician into the room. Princess Ning returned to her room. Not long after, Lian anxiously reported, "Princess, The young master is not cooperating. The imperial physician is not allowed to treat him. Princess Ning said indifferently, I see that he has so much strength. He should be fine for a while. I won't treat him. Just let him be in pain. Lien opened her mouth. Princess. Princess Ning An's eyes flickered. Send an imperial physician to guard him. Princess Ning An's expression was extremely cold. She quietly stood in front of the window and looked at the courtyard that was as still as snow. Then she looked up at the crescent moon in the sky. Suddenly, she seemed to have made a decision. She turned and walked in the direction of Pure Flowers Palace. Pure Flowers Palace. Eunuch Wei had just finished wiping His Majesty's body and was about to go to the small kitchen to find something to eat. Just as he walked into the garden, a figure suddenly appeared and covered his mouth. He was so shocked that he started whimpering. It's me, the other person said in a small voice. Eunuch Wei was stunned. The other person removed his hand. Eunuch Wei turned around and said in surprise, Eunuch Qin? Sure. Eunuch Qin made a shushing gesture and pulled him behind a large tree. Eunuch Wei was puzzled. Didn't you escape? Why are you still in the palace? Eunuch Qin said, I originally planned to leave that day, but I was still worried and decided to stay. Eunuch Wei clicked his tongue and said, Aren't you afraid of being caught? Eunuch Qin said, I've worked in the palace for so many years. It's not hard to find a place to hide. Eunuch Wei glared at him. Even so, you shouldn't have come here. It's too dangerous. I'll keep an eye on the palace people for you. Hurry and leave. Don't come here again. If Eunuch Wei could still say this, it meant that he hadn't betrayed him. Eunuch Qin inwardly sighed in relief. To be honest, he had gathered a great deal of courage to come find Eunuch Wei. He was worried that if Eunuch Wei really did betray him, then his appearance would spell his death. Eunuch Qin looked around and lowered his voice. Tell me, what exactly happened in the imperial study that day? How did His Majesty become like this? Also, what's up with His Majesty's shadow dragon guards? Who's there? When Princess Ning passed by the small garden of Pure Flowers Palace, she saw a sneaky figure behind a large tree. Eunuch Wei awkwardly walked out from behind the large tree. Princess. Princess Ning asked suspiciously, What are you doing sneaking around there? Eunuch Wei smiled and said, This one lost the key and was looking around. Did you find it? Princess Ning asked. No, Eunuch Wei said regretfully. Princess Ning coldly hooked her lips and walked towards Eunuch Wei. A trace of unconcealable panic flitted across Eunuch Wei's face. Princess Ning walked closer and saw the other figure on the ground. Her eyes turned cold. Hurry and get out here. That figure timidly walked out. Princess Ning frowned. You are. Eunuch Wei hurriedly blocked the person behind him and begged. Princess, this servant didn't do it on purpose. This servant won't dare to do it again, this servant. Princess Ning looked at Eunuch Wei's hand grabbing the other person's wrist and realized something. She burst out laughing. So Eunuch Wei is also into food. The palace really does prohibit it, but this princess is kind-hearted and didn't see anything tonight. Eunuch Wei pulled the palace maid behind him to kneel. Many thanks, Princess. Many thanks, Princess. Eunuch Qin only walked out from behind the large tree after Princess Ning went to the Emperor's sleeping quarters. Everyone let out a long sigh of relief. This person can be trusted, right? Eunuch Qin was referring to the palace maid that had been pulled in at the last minute to put on a show. She can be trusted, don't worry, Eunuch Wei said. Who didn't have a few trusted subordinates? She was the one who had reported that Princess Ning had entered Pure Flowers Palace. Eunuch Wei. Princess Ning's indifferent voice came from inside the sleeping quarters. Coming. Eunuch Wei hurriedly gestured to Eunuch Qin to leave quickly. Eunuch Qin looked at the Emperor's sleeping quarters, then walked out of Pure Flowers Palace with a dark expression. Princess. Eunuch Wei cheerfully walked up to Princess Ning Princess Ning sat on the Emperor's chair and put down the finished imperial edict. She said to Eunuch Qin, Alright, use the imperial jade seal to stamp it. This. Eunuch Wei stared at the imperial edict and his eyes widened. Princess. Princess Ning smiled. What? Did I write something wrong? His Majesty's body is not well and he can't personally govern. The Empress Dowager also colluded to plot against His Majesty. The country can't go a day without a ruler. Is there anything wrong with letting the Crown Prince handle court affairs in His Majesty's place? Isn't this the rule set by the old ancestor? This is the rule set by the old ancestor, but your last sentence is against the rules. How can you go to court to supervise the country? Eunuch Wei tried his best to dissuade her. The Empress probably won't admit it so easily. Princess Ning sneered. She'll either admit to everything written on the imperial edict or not. I bet. She'll let her son personally govern the country. Of course Empress Xiao would let the Crown Prince personally govern, even if the price was another Princess Ning to supervise the country. Empress Xiao probably didn't care about this widowed princess who had been acting subservient in front of her recently. If she was going to supervise the country, then so be it. If she was unhappy one day, she could have the Crown Prince remove Ning An's authority at any time. But would things really go so smoothly? Ning An wasn't a sheep, she was a wolf. It was hard to say whether it was the Crown Prince who removed Ning An's authority or if it was Ning An who removed the Crown Prince. Back then, Empress Dowager Zhuang had used her authority to supervise the country step by step to cover the sky in court. Eunuch Wei wanted to cry. It's over, it's really, really over now. At night, an eagle circled above the imperial palace. It let out a cold cry and flew into the night sky. The next morning, Empress Xiao received news that she was to head to Pure Flower's palace. Eunuch Wei was going to read the imperial edict. Empress Xiao washed up and dressed neatly before heading to Pure Flower's palace with a complicated expression. Eunuch Wei was already waiting in the main hall of Pure Flower's palace. Empress Xiao walked over angrily and said in a low voice, "Did His Majesty wake up again last night? Didn't this Empress tell you to immediately report to this Empress as soon as His Majesty woke up? Are you treating this Empress's words like the wind?" Eunuch Wei thought, "It's not that I want to treat your words like the wind, but Princess Ning An didn't give me any time to prepare. By the time I entered, she had already finished drafting the imperial edict. If you rushed over, the result would have been the same." Eunuch Wei said embarrassedly, "This was His Majesty's will. This servant can't do anything about it. Please forgive this servant, Empress." Empress Xiao glared at him coldly. "Wei Quan, you're very daring." Eunuch Wei felt bitter inside, but he didn't say anything. Not long later, the Crown Prince also came over in confusion. Imperial Mother? Imperial Son? Empress Xiao frowned. Why was the Crown Prince also here? Could it be that the imperial edict was related to the Crown Prince? Empress Xiao looked indifferently at Eunuch Wei. "This Empress and the Crown Prince are both here. You can announce the edict." Eunuch Wei laughed dryly. "This is an important matter. His Majesty wants to announce the edict in front of the Empress and all the imperial concubines. Those who could bear the title of imperial concubine were at least standard third-rank noble concubines or above. Soon, noble consort Zhuang, noble consort Shu, noble consort Yu, and all the imperial concubines arrived at Pure Flower's palace one after another. Princess Ning An also came. There were enough people here, so everyone thought she was also called here to listen to the imperial edict and didn't pay too much attention to her. Seeing that everyone was here, Eunuch Wei unfolded the imperial edict in his hand. "Everyone, hear the edict." Everyone led by Empress Xiao knelt on the ground. "By the will of the heavens, the Emperor decrees that we have ascended the throne for 21 years. Although we have worked tirelessly day and night, we have bowed to the Emperor. Today, we are bedridden and our dragon body is lacking in health. The Crown Prince is of noble character and deeply respects us. From today onwards, the Crown Prince will take over the court and temporarily govern the country." Hearing this, Empress Xiao let out a long sigh of relief. Fortunately, this was an imperial edict to help the Crown Prince ascend the throne. The other imperial concubines were also very shocked when they heard the contents of the imperial edict. However, they weren't shocked that the crown prince would temporarily govern the country, but rather that the emperor would hand over his authority. This meant that the emperor was too ill. It was even possible that he would fall sick forever. Back then, the previous emperor had been like this. Also, Eunuch Wei cleared his throat. Everyone was shocked. Also, the crown prince is still young and has just started governing the country. We are also worried and have specially appointed him as regent. Eunuch Wei opened his mouth, a trace of extreme fear flashing through his eyes. What do you mean? The crown prince asked. Princess Ning An's lips curved imperceptibly. Eunuch Wei broke out in a cold sweat. After a while, he steeled his heart and read out the words on the imperial edict, Princess Xinyang will be regent. Princess Ning An was struck by a bolt from the blue. Digression, it's the end of the month. Are there still monthly tickets? The newest chapter of this book isn't finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels will be updated even faster. Millions of novels will be read for free. Novels with connotations that can't be found online are all available here. https://www.zhbqg.com/89642/8264280864090. HTML Genius memorized this website's address in a second. www.zhbqg.com Bikuj mobile reading website. zhbqg.com. Chapter 568. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated faster. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels with connotations that can't be found online are available here. The rest of the people didn't have as big of a reaction as Princess Ning An, but they were also very strange. His Majesty. Why did he let a princess govern the country? The one who asked was noble consort Zhuang. If it was revealed today that Princess Ning An would govern the country, she would also ask the same question. Since Empress Dowager Zhuang was the Empress Dowager, she had set a precedent for a woman to govern the country. However, Empress Dowager Zhuang was the empress, and Princess Xinyang was only a princess. Moreover, she didn't hear that His Majesty loved this princess very much. The relationship between the emperor and Princess Xinyang was indeed not very close. The marriage between Princess Xinyang and Marquis Xianping was arranged by the emperor. Most people didn't know that the emperor was actually following the will of the late emperor, so the husband and wife didn't get along well. It was inevitable that people would think that the emperor randomly matched them. Princess Xinyang probably had complaints about the emperor in her heart. Everyone thought so. So why did the emperor let her govern the country? This imperial edict isn't fake, is it? Noble consort Zhuang's mouth really didn't have a lock. She dared to say anything. Empress Xiao was the first to have a black face. She stood up and looked coldly at noble consort Zhuang. Noble consort, what do you mean? The imperial edict is clearly written in black and white and is stamped with the imperial seal of the Zhao country. Do you not believe in the imperial seal of the Zhao country, or His Majesty's decree? The imperial edict had the part where the crown prince was the regent. If she said it was fake, wouldn't she also deny the crown prince? Empress Xiao didn't care who was the regent. In short, the crown prince had to replace His Majesty in the imperial court. Noble consort Zhuang laughed and said, "Who knows if someone stole His Majesty's imperial seal while he was unconscious and then wrote an imperial edict? Isn't that right? Eunuch Wei?" Eunuch Wei's temples suddenly jumped. Noble consort Zhuang, oh noble consort Zhuang, you're usually so stupid. How come you're smart today? That's right, that's the truth. But unfortunately, I can't admit it. Empress Xiao said seriously, Eunuch Wei, tell us about the whole process of His Majesty's imperial edict. This. Eunuch Wei looked at the imperial edict that was obviously still in Princess Ning En's handwriting and braced himself to say, when His Majesty woke up, Princess Ning En was also there. His Majesty had Princess Ning En draft the imperial edict on his behalf and had this old servant bring the imperial jade seal to stamp it. Noble consort Zhuang sneered. Let Princess Ning En write the imperial edict? Why is it that every time His Majesty wakes up, Princess Ning En is there? When we go to visit His Majesty never wakes up. This was referring to the matter of the Emperor asking Princess Ning En to draft an imperial edict to punish the Empress Dowager. Empress Xiao said coldly, "That's because you can't wake His Majesty up. Don't you know whether His Majesty wants to see you or not? Wasn't that right?" These women in the harem added together were not as important as Princess Ning, and noble consort Zhuang was completely choked and had no words to refute. "Princess Ning En, is this the imperial edict you wrote last night?" Empress Xiao asked Eunuch Wei to pass the imperial edict to Princess Ning En. Princess Ning En took it and looked at it carefully. It was her handwriting without any flaws. But she would never confuse her own title with Xinyang's. So the imperial edict had been swapped. But even if she told the truth at this time, no one would believe her. Not to mention, it was not a tenable truth. Princess Ning En held the imperial edict so tightly that the veins on her hands bulged. Eunuch Wei was frightened. Princess Ning En wouldn't think that he did it, right? In all honesty, he hadn't touched the imperial edict after putting it in the brocade box last night. Who the hell knew how Ning En had turned into Xinyang? Princess Ning En took a deep breath and slowly exhaled, replying to sister-in-law, "Yes." Empress Xiao raised her eyebrows. Princess Ning En and Eunuch Wei are loyal to His Majesty. You should believe their words. Moreover, the crime of deceiving the Emperor is punishable by beheading. Who would dare to pass a false imperial edict? Eunuch Wei thought, there are many people who pass false imperial edicts. Would you believe that there is only one in front of you? Princess Ning En said, it seems that Princess Xinyang hasn't returned to the capital yet. If she hadn't returned to the capital, there was still room for negotiation. If they could draft an imperial edict, they could draft a second one, a third one, or even find a reason to remove her title of regent. It wasn't difficult at all. But before she could finish speaking, she heard the young eunuch at the door rush over, panting, "Princess Xinyang has arrived, Princess Ning En." Everyone stood up and looked towards the entrance of Pure Flower's palace. Under the golden light of dawn, Princess Xinyang, dressed in a light golden muslin palace robe and a bamboo hat, slowly walked over with the support of a young maidservant. Princess Xinyang's beauty was well known throughout the world. Even though she had passed the most beautiful years of her life, she was still unbelievably beautiful. But today, she wore a bamboo hat with a muslin veil, hiding her devastatingly beautiful face. Even so, her every movement still had the bearing of a member of the imperial family that made it hard for people to look away. There were 3,000 beauties in the imperial harem, but it had to be said that no man would look at Princess Xinyang when she appeared. Princess Xinyang gracefully walked towards Empress Xiao. Just as she was about to greet her, she accidentally stepped on her skirt and fell in front of Empress Xiao, prostrating herself on the ground. "Empress Xiao, there's no need for that. Why aren't you helping your master up?" Eunuch Su scolded the young maidservant. The young maidservant pursed her lips and bent down to pick up Princess Xinyang. That's right, she was picking her up. Her movements were rough, and there was even a trace of disdain in her eyes. Eunuch Su, Princess Xinyang straightened her clothes and said to Empress Xiao, "Greetings to the Empress." Empress Xiao nodded. The Crown Prince came over and bowed to Princess Xinyang. "And?" Empress Xiao said to Princess Xinyang, "You came back just in time. There is an imperial edict to announce to you, but why are you wearing this?" "A few days ago, I ate something wrong and had an allergic reaction, so I have a lot of rashes. It's hard to see people." As she spoke, Princess Xinyang lifted her veil, revealing her chin covered in rashes. Empress Xiao only took one look and felt scared. She quickly waved her hand and wiped the tip of her nose with a handkerchief. "Okay, be careful when you eat. Receive the imperial edict." The person accompanying Princess Xinyang wasn't her personal maid, Yujin, but an unfamiliar maidservant. However, Empress Xiao didn't care about Princess Xinyang's affairs, so she didn't bother to ask. Eunuch Wei read the imperial edict to Princess Xinyang alone. Princess Xinyang knelt, but the young maidservant didn't. No one at the scene realized that something was wrong. By the time everyone reacted, Princess Xinyang had already received the imperial edict. Xinyang receives the imperial edict. Long live the emperor. Then she turned her head and handed her noble, jade-like hand to the young maidservant behind her. She said in a tone of voice, "Help this princess up." The young maidservant pulled her up with a look of disgust, almost ripping her arm off. Princess Xinyang's veil was mesh-like. The inside couldn't be seen from the outside, but the outside could be seen from the inside. She looked at Princess Ning-en and asked in confusion, "This is—" "I am Ning-en," Princess Ning-en said to her calmly. Princess Xinyang nodded. "So it's little sister Ning-en. You've changed so much that I almost didn't recognize you." Ning-en curtsied. Princess Xinyang nodded in return. Empress Xiao said to everyone, "Okay, there's nothing else here. You can all leave." Princess Xinyang said, "I'll go in and see His Majesty." "Okay," Empress Xiao agreed. Princess Xinyang had returned from outside the city. It was reasonable for her to pay respects to the emperor. The crown prince would go to court tomorrow. Empress Xiao had too many things to take care of, so she left with the crown prince. Noble consort Zhuang and the others naturally had to leave as well. When Princess Ning-en turned to return to Bixia Hall, she was stopped by Princess Xinyang. Princess Ning-en stopped and looked at her. "Sister Xinyang, do you have any other orders?" Princess Xinyang said in a concerned tone, "You don't look well. Are you sick?" Princess Ning-en pursed her lips and didn't say anything. Eunuch Wei hurriedly explained, "Princess Xinyang, you don't know. Not long ago, His Majesty was attacked by an assassin. It was Princess Ning-en who took the blow for His Majesty. Princess Ning-en must have not recovered from her injuries." Princess Xinyang said, "I see. I didn't expect such a big thing to happen in less than a month after I left the capital. Little sister Ning-en placed righteousness before family and risked her life to protect His Majesty. It's truly admirable. If little sister Ning-en doesn't mind, why don't you come with me to see His Majesty? We sisters haven't seen each other in many years. It's a good opportunity to catch up." Eunuch Wei looked at Princess Xinyang strangely. When did Princess Xinyang become so enthusiastic? His gaze instinctively swept over Princess Xinyang's body. When his gaze landed on Princess Xinyang's slender hand that held the imperial edict, his temples twitched violently. What was going on? Princess Xinyang had a hand. Princess Ning-en hesitated. Just as she was about to refuse, Princess Xinyang grabbed her wrist through her sleeve. "Little sister Ning-en, you're not going to refuse me, are you?" Naturally, she couldn't refuse in public. Princess Ning-en's backers in the palace fell one after another. Of course, she couldn't refuse Princess Xinyang, who had just been appointed regent. Otherwise, it wouldn't be in line with her image of trying to please Empress Xiao. Princess Ning-en said, "How could I? Let's go in." Princess Xinyang held Princess Ning-en's hand and stepped into the bedchamber. Eunuch Wei looked at Princess Xinyang's back and rubbed his eyes hard. Was he seeing things? What woman would have hand hair? A cold wind blew, blowing up Princess Xinyang's veil. She just happened to turn her head. Eunuch Wei took a closer look and almost fell to the ground. Princess Xinyang not only had hand hair, she also had an Adam's apple. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated even faster. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels with connotations that can't be found online are all available here. https://www.zhbqg.com/89642_896428226/1086193323 HTML genius memorized this website's address in 1 second. www.zhhbqg.com Biku Pavilion's mobile reading website. zhhbqg.com. Chapter 569. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated even faster. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels with connotations that can't be found online are all available here. The three of them entered the bedchamber. During this time, Princess Ning and also looked at Princess Xinyang strangely several times. Obviously, she also felt that Princess Xinyang was strange. However, Princess Ning and Princess Xinyang weren't close before they got married. After they got married, they were at different ends of the world. Not familiar with each other meant that there was no reason to suspect. There were many palace servants on duty in the bedchamber. Princess Xinyang called Eunuch Wei in and said, "Take them away first. I want to be alone with Imperial Brother and Princess Ning and." "Ah, yes." Eunuch Wei suppressed the fear in his heart and secretly glanced at Princess Xinyang's hand. "Oh my. It really is there." He pretended to drop the token on the ground and used the time he squatted down to pick it up to look at Princess Xinyang's Adam's apple under her bamboo hat. "Oh my. She really does have an Adam's apple." He hadn't carefully looked at Princess Xinyang before. Today was such a coincidence that he saw everything he shouldn't see. He suddenly felt a little sorry for Marquis Xian Ping. Eunuch Wei took the palace servants away. Only the sleeping emperor and the two princesses were left in the room. "Ah, I'm so tired." Princess Xinyang let go of Princess Ning An's hand and found a chair to sit down. Then she ordered arrogantly, "Xiaoyu, pour me some tea." The servant girl called Xiaoyu ignored her and walked to the dragon bed and grabbed the emperor's wrist. "What are you doing?" Princess Ning and grabbed the servant girl's wrist. Princess Xinyang's expression changed and she stood up. "You dare grab her wrist? Aren't you afraid she'll send you flying with a slap?" The servant girl looked indifferently at Princess Ning An's hand. For some reason, Princess Ning An felt this gaze was inexplicably familiar and made her shudder. "Okay, Xiaoyu, there's nothing else for you to do here. Go make me some tea." Princess Xinyang unobtrusively separated the two people's hands and shielded the servant girl behind her. She waved her hand behind her back. The servant girl slapped the back of her hand. It was a little painful. Princess Xinyang smiled and once again took Princess Ning An's wrist. She whispered, "Let's go sit over there and talk." Princess Ning An asked, "You're not here to see Imperial Brother?" Princess Xinyang chuckled and said, "Of course. What I meant was that you go sit over there and wait for me. After I'm done with my brother, I'll go and chat with you." Princess Ning An glanced at Princess Xinyang suspiciously. After all, she wasn't familiar with Princess Xinyang and wasn't sure if Princess Xinyang had been like this all these years. She didn't say anything and went to sit down on a chair. The young maidservant who was ordered to make tea also found a chair and sat down. Princess Ning An, "Didn't you want to make tea?" "Oh, my poor His Majesty, how did he get hurt so badly?" Princess Xinyang took out her handkerchief and reached into her veil to wipe away 2 non-existent tears. She then beckoned to the young maidservant, "Xiaoyu, come and watch over His Majesty. If His Majesty wakes up, call me. I want to have a few intimate words with Sister Ning An." The young maidservant gave her a sidelong glance. She had gone overboard. The young maidservant came to the bedside. Princess Xinyang choked out, "Watch over His Majesty carefully." Young maidservant. Princess Xinyang came to Princess Ning An's side and asked sadly, "Sister Ning An, quickly tell me, what happened these past few days?" Princess Ning An looked in the direction of the dragon bed. Princess Xinyang blocked her with her broad body. "Sister, tell me." "I'm listening." Princess Ning An frowned, but still told her what had happened. It was nothing more than an assassin trying to assassinate His Majesty, and His Majesty was smashed in the head and fell into a coma. "It's getting late. I should go back and take care of Xian, Princess Ning'an said as she stood up. I'll see you out, Princess Xinyang said. No need, Princess Ning'an declined. Princess Xinyang insisted on seeing her out. As they tugged and tugged, Princess Ning'an's skirt was stepped on by Princess Xinyang, and she fell forward. Princess Xinyang, who had been behind her, somehow flashed in front of her and caught her steadily. Are you all right, sister? I'm fine. Princess Ning'an straightened up. Thank you, sister. Princess Xinyang said apologetically, I'm sorry, I stepped on your skirt. Princess Ning'an said, It's fine. Princess Xinyang sighed, I won't cause you any more trouble. You should hurry back and take care of Xian, I'll come see you when I have time. Okay. Princess Ning'an turned to leave. She had already crossed the threshold when she turned back to look at Princess Xinyang, her eyes filled with confusion. After confirming that Princess Ning'an was far away, only then did Princess Xinyang take off her bamboo hat, revealing an unfamiliar face covered in rashes. But how was it Xinyang? It was Gu Chengfeng. I can finally stand up straight. Gu Chengfeng stood up straight, and his skirt instantly shortened by a large chunk. He was taller than Princess Xinyang, and in order not to expose himself, he kept his legs bent. His calf Achilles tendons were sore. How is it? The young maidservant turned to ask her. The young maidservant was naturally not a young maidservant, but Gu Jiao. Gu Jiao was wearing a mask made of human skin. She couldn't make too much of an expression, or the mask would fall off. Gu Chengfeng didn't wear it because he had to speak and make a lot of expressions. If a piece of his face fell off, the scene would be quite frightening. The rashes on his face were drawn on. Have I ever made a mistake? Look at what this is. He raised his eyebrows proudly, reached out, and opened his palm to reveal a bronze key. This was the item he had stolen from Princess Ning'an earlier. There was another important reason why Eunuch Qin didn't leave the palace with Empress Dowager Zhuang. He wanted to stay behind to investigate what Empress Dowager Zhuang had told him. After Princess Ning'an returned to the palace, she went to the nunnery. At first, Empress Dowager Zhuang thought she was missing her late mother and didn't think much of it. Later, she guessed that old concubine Jing had left something for Princess Ning'an before she died. Eunuch Qin searched until his head went bald. Finally, he found a clue. It seems to be a key, Eunuch Qin said in the letter. Along with the letter, Little Nine brought back the imperial edict for Princess Ning'an to be a regent. Thus, they came up with the plan of having Princess Xinyang be regent. Xiao Hang also thought of removing the regent position, but with Princess Ning'an's personality, she would probably make another imperial edict for herself. Thus, she still had to take the regent position. Why Princess Xinyang? First, Gu Chengfeng had seen her and heard her speak, so he didn't feel any pressure acting as her. Second, she had the golden whip bestowed by the late emperor. If anyone doubted it, Gu Chengfeng could take the whip to the throne room. Gu Chengfeng looked at the key and said, Say, what kind of key do you think this is? Old concubine Jing must have left something important for her daughter. Could it be a treasury for her daughter? Or was it a treasure trove? The kind that could rival a country's wealth? Or, it could be an armory. Men and women had different hobbies. Women liked jewelry, while men liked weapons. In Gu Chengfeng's eyes, an armory was something that excited him more than gold and silver. Gu Jiao said, Make a guess. It didn't cost any money anyway. Gu Chengfeng waved his hand. Forget it, I won't guess. Hurry up and think of a way to make a copy. We still have to send it back to her later. Gu Jiao took out a piece of dough wrapped in cloth from her sleeve, pressed the key into it, and removed the mold. Then, she handed it to him. Okay, you can return it to her now. Gu Chengfeng put away the key. Is His Majesty all right? Gu Jiao put the dough back into her sleeve. His head was severely injured, and he was fed medicine again. His condition isn't too good. Can he still wake up? Gu Chengfeng asked. I don't know, Gu Jiao said. Gu Chengfeng sighed. Although it's not appropriate to say this, Why do I feel like His Majesty deserves it? The emperor, who couldn't wake up but could hear everything clearly, was speechless. Gu Chengfeng continued to complain. Who told him not to spoil the person he should have and not trust the person he should have? What a waste of his eyes. Gu Jiao was measuring the emperor's blood pressure when she felt the changes on the blood pressure gauge. Gu Chengfeng said with a strong aura, "If it were up to me, Ning An's inkstone was too light. She should have stabbed him a dozen more times so that he couldn't get out of bed for 7 or 8 years. Let's see if he still remembers." The emperor's blood pressure soared. Gu Jiao turned around and looked at Gu Chengfeng sympathetically. Gu Chengfeng grabbed a fruit and took a big bite. Then, he crossed his legs and looked at Gu Jiao. "Why are you looking at me?" Gu Jiao retracted her gaze and looked at the blood pressure gauge that was about to explode. She put it away without batting an eyelid. Then, she came to Gu Chengfeng's side, patted his shoulder, and put the bamboo hat on his head. "After we're done with this, find a place to hide. Also," she looked down at his collar. "Here, it's crooked." When Eunuch Wei entered the bedchamber with a pot of brewed tea, he saw Princess Xinyang with her head lowered and her hands constantly rubbing her chest. Eunuch Wei was petrified on the spot. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated at a faster rate. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels with connotations that can't be found online are all available here. https://www.zhbqg.com/89642_826/1086615985. HTML Genius memorized the website address in 1 second. www.zhbqg.com Biku Gu mobile reading website, m. zhbqg.com. Chapter 570. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated even faster. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels with content that can't be found online are all available here. Gu Chengfeng used to have a fake voice, but today was his first time cross-dressing. It was really hard for a straight man like him. Gu Chengfeng took a long time to make the two little fellows symmetrical. Oh, not bad. He was quite satisfied. Eunuch Wei, so you're this kind of Princess Xinyang. Gu Jiao gave the emperor acupuncture to alleviate his condition, but the specific effects would have to be observed later. "Let's go," Gu Jiao said to Gu Chengfeng. N. Gu Chengfeng switched to Princess Xinyang's voice in a second. He stood up and bent his knees, letting his gorgeous skirt drag on the ground. Then he elegantly reached out a hand. "Shall you, support this princess?" Gu Jiao didn't even look at that hand and walked past him. Gu Chengfeng, who was ignored. Gu Chengfeng forcefully recovered his dignity and said, "Xiao Yuer is still so anxious to open the way for this princess. All right, you can open the door." Gu Jiao looked at him with a dark expression. "Can you not be so dramatic?" The two left Pure Flower's palace. Gu Chengfeng said, "I want to return the key to her. Wait for me outside Jade Cloud's hall." Gu Jiao glanced at him. "Is it convenient for you to wear this?" It was indeed a bit inconvenient. A woman's clothes were actually so troublesome. They were layered and bound from head to toe. He couldn't even move his legs. Gu Jiao reached out a hand. "I'll go. You wait for me in the Imperial Garden." Gu Chengfeng thought about it for a while. His clothes really hindered his movements. He handed the key to her and said, "Then be careful." Eunuch Qin said that there were more than 10 servants coming from the frontier fortress. They said that they used to serve Huang Fuxian. Does that little cripple need so many people to serve him? I think there's something fishy going on. Understood. Gu Jiao took the key and went to Jade Cloud's hall. Gu Jiao had never been to Bai Xia Hall, but it did not affect Eunuch Qin from drawing a picture of Bai Xia Hall for her. She easily found Princess Ning An's bedroom. Princess Ning An's key was originally placed in her purse. Along the way, she had not opened the purse, so there was no possibility of it falling out. In order not to be discovered, she had to put it back in its original place. Gu Jiao's luck was good. Princess Ning An had just put down the purse on the dressing table and then went to the side room. Gu Jiao put on her gloves, gently opened the pouch, and put the key inside. When Princess Ning An came out of the side room, Gu Jiao had already jumped out of the window. Gu Jiao planned to meet up with Gu Changfeng, but when she passed by a room, she heard a muffled groan from inside. "There's a patient." Gu Jiao took a few steps back and looked through the narrow gap in the window lattice. She saw an empty wheelchair. She could almost guess whose room it was. There was an imperial doctor on duty in the room, but now he went to the outhouse. Gu Jiao opened the window lattice and jumped in. She came to the bed. Huang Fu Xian's situation was very bad. His breathing was short, his pulse was unstable, and his forehead and body were constantly sweating. It seemed that he was enduring great pain. "Does it hurt anywhere?" Gu Jiao frowned strangely. She checked Huang Fu Xian's upper body. Except for a few abrasions on his palms that had already healed, she did not see any injuries that could cause such intense pain. She then gently pulled Huang Fu Xian's quilt. She pulled up Huang Fu Xian's trousers and finally understood the problem. His bones grew out of his skin and flesh. Bones grew faster than skin and flesh. Therefore, many patients with amputations at a young age would undergo more than one bone-grinding operation during their growth. This kind of operation was a kind of torture for the patient's body and mind. His situation had already caused slight inflammation. He had to undergo the bone-grinding operation as soon as possible. No matter how bad it was, he had to quickly treat the wound to stop the inflammation. Gu Jiao did not bring a small medicine box, but she carried a palm-sized emergency medicine bag. She took out disinfectant and gauze, did a simple cleaning of the inflamed area, and took 2 anti-inflammatory pills to feed him. Huang Fu Xian was in a daze. He felt that he had fallen into a cold embrace. He wanted to open his eyes, but he did not even have the strength to look up. "Drink it." He heard someone talking to him in his ear. He was a rebellious teenager. No one could order him to do things. Gu Jiao said, "If you don't drink it, I'll take off your pants." Huang Fu Xian drank the medicine aggrievedly. He was in great pain. Gu Jiao gave him a special painkiller from the research institute. This kind of painkiller had little side effects and could be taken by children. However, under normal circumstances, Gu Jiao still would not give it to children. But wasn't this an emergency? She could not care so much. Gu Jiao laid him down and pulled the quilt over him. At this time, the imperial doctor also came back. Gu Jiao jumped out of the window. "Why were you gone for so long? Did something happen?" In the imperial garden, Gu Changfeng looked at Gu Jiao, who had arrived late, and asked. Gu Jiao looked around and said, "Nothing, I went to see Huang Fu Xian." Gu Changfeng breathed a sigh of relief. "I thought you went to investigate the situation of those people from the frontier fortress. They are not in Bixia Hall." Gu Jiao did not feel the aura of any masters. Either they also used drugs to self-destruct their bodies to suppress their skills, or they were not there at all. Gu Changfeng was puzzled. Not in Bixia Hall. Then where did they go? Gu Jiao said, "Maybe they went to the Imperial Household Department. Didn't Eunuch Qin say that those who move into the palace from the outside must go to the Imperial Household Department to register?" "Ah, there is such a thing." Gu Changfeng suddenly understood and thought of something. He smiled wickedly. "Why did you go see Huang Fu Xian? Do you want to capture him to threaten Ning En?" Gu Jiao gave him a speechless look. The next second, her ears twitched. She grabbed Gu Changfeng and hid in the grass behind her. On a small path not far away, Princess Ning hurried past with Lian and a few men dressed as guards. It looked like they were about to leave the palace. Gu Chengfeng asked in a low voice, I've always had a question. Why can a man outside live in the palace? Huang Fuxian is still young and is the princess's son. This is another matter, but those guards. Gu Jiao said, the masters in the palace are all eunuchs. What do you think? So they are eunuchs too? Gu Chengfeng felt that his little melon was a bit cold. Gu Jiao nodded. Should be. If they weren't eunuchs, Empress Xiao wouldn't let them in. Even though Xiao Hang was so loved by her grand aunt, who even left a room for him, he had never really stayed overnight in the palace. This was the palace's rule. Follow them, Gu Jiao said. The two of them followed at a distance. They heard Princess Ning get into the carriage that the emperor had bestowed upon her as she approached the palace gates. The guards on duty stopped the carriage. Princess Ning said, I'm going out to buy something. I've already told the empress. Lien took out a travel card given to her by Cunning Palace. The guards hurriedly let her go. Princess Xinyang didn't need to show the card when she left the palace. She didn't live in the palace in the first place. The guards were just a bit confused. Why did another princess come after they had just sent off one princess? Since they were both going out, why not go together? Princess Ning's carriage stopped at the entrance of a silk shop. Lien alighted from the carriage. It was unknown what Princess Ning said to her, but Lien entered the shop while Princess Ning continued her journey in the carriage. The four guards and the driver also followed. Gu Chengfeng looked over from the carriage and snorted. Sure enough, buying something is just a cover. He turned his head and found Gu Jiao deep in thought. He couldn't help but ask, Why are you in a daze? Gu Jiao said indifferently, Who's in a daze? Gu Chengfeng asked, Then why aren't you saying anything? What are you thinking about? Gu Jiao said, I'm thinking about what happened in the imperial study that day. Gu Chengfeng raised his eyebrows. Didn't Eunuch Qin say that nothing happened in the letter? Even if His Majesty saw Hua Xiao's confession, Princess Ning didn't hesitate to commit suicide by hitting a pillar to prove her innocence. Who would have thought that she would do it for nothing? His Majesty didn't believe her at all. After that, she knocked His Majesty unconscious. The Dragon Shadow Guard made a move, but with a wave of her hand, the Dragon Shadow Guard fell. After that, she killed Lu Ping and stabbed and smashed herself, pretending that the guard was injured. This is what Eunuch Wei saw, but perhaps there are some things that he didn't see. As Gu Jiao spoke, she made a waving motion with her hand. With this, the Dragon Shadow Guard was knocked down. Gu Chengfeng took off his bamboo hat and said, Did she use some kind of hidden weapon? But what kind of hidden weapon can make a Dragon Shadow Guard fall down in an instant? The kind with poison? Gu Jiao didn't say anything. Gu Chengfeng didn't understand. Speaking of which, where did the injured Dragon Shadow Guard go? Eunuch Wei said that he escaped, but where could he escape to? And isn't the Dragon Shadow Guard loyal and devoted? Why did he abandon His Majesty and escape? Gu Jiao muttered, Yes, why? Hey, their carriage stopped. Gu Chengfeng said. Gu Jiao lifted the curtain and said to the coachman, Stop for a moment. Their carriage stopped in an alley about 10 steps away, while Princess Ning's carriage stopped in front of a gambling house. When Princess Ning got out of the carriage, she was no longer dressed as she was in the palace. Instead, she was wearing a black cloak, and the hood of the cloak covered her head. Gu Chengfeng chuckled. Sneaking around, it's obviously not a good thing. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. The novel is more complete and updated faster. Millions of novels are free to read. There are novels with connotations that can't be found online here. https://www.zhbqg.com/89642_826/1085949933. HTML Genius remembered this site's address in a second. www ZHHBQG. Biku Pavilion Mobile Reading Website. M. ZHHBQG. Com. Chapter 571. Please scan the QR code below to download the app for more interesting content. Novels are updated faster and more frequently. Millions of novels are free to read. There are all kinds of novels that can't be found online. Gu Jiao looked at Princess Ning An's cloak and couldn't help but think that concubine Jing also had a similar cloak. They were indeed mother and daughter. This was a gambling house where crooks mixed in with honest folk. One could see all kinds of people inside. Princess Ning An seemed to be very familiar with this place. Soon, she entered a room at the end of the corner on the first floor that was guarded by guards. Gu Jiao tried to enter, but was told that it wasn't a place where ordinary people were allowed to enter. So she had to keep an eye on them from somewhere else. Here. In a shabby courtyard next to the casino, Gu Chengfeng waved at Gu Jiao. Gu Jiao walked over. This was a house that hadn't been inhabited for a long time. The wall in the backyard was only one wall away from the room in the casino. The two put their ears to the wall and could faintly hear the conversation in the room. Didn't I lead them out? Are you blaming me for the failure of your own men? It was Princess Ning An's voice. Gu Chengfeng asked Gu Jiao silently, "What do you mean?" It should be the time when Xiao Hang was lured out of the capital by Assistant Minister Li's case. Minister Xing was also there. The two of them were almost killed by a group of men in black. It was only because of the black fire pearl that they managed to escape. From these words, it was almost certain that the other party was from the Yan Kingdom. There was a dangerous aura in it that even Gu Jiao was wary of. Gu Jiao narrowed her eyes, a little excitement surging in her heart. Princess Ning An spoke again. "Speaking of which, who is he? Why do you want to kill him?" "That's not something you should ask." It was a man's voice. It seemed that Ning An didn't know Xiao Liulong's true identity. She might not even know that Xiao Lulang was Xiao Hang. Otherwise, she wouldn't have tried to sow discord in front of Empress Xiao and ended up asking for a snub. Eunuch Qin's informant in the Palace of Earthly Tranquility brought out the news of sowing discord. Eunuch Qin told Gu Jiao and the others about it in a letter. It wasn't strange that Princess Ning An didn't know. First of all, she hadn't seen Xiao Hang before, so it was difficult to connect the two just by looking at their faces. Secondly, this group of people probably didn't want Immortal Music House to inquire about Xiao Heng's identity. Princess Ning An said, "Fine, I won't meddle in your business. However, I've already done what I promised you. You haven't fulfilled your promise to me even once." The man said, "Lure him out again." Princess Ning An asked, "Why must we lure him out? Can't I just find a random place in the capital to make a move?" He goes to the Hanlin Academy and the Ministry of Justice every day. He can always find an opportunity to make a move on the way back and forth, right? The man said, "There are too many witnesses. We can't take this risk." Princess Ning An said, "Then tonight should be fine, right? Or you can just sneak into his house. Can't you do that?" The man said, "Unless we kill everyone in the alley and leave no witnesses." But even so, there would still be traces of the crime. Unless it was absolutely necessary, they didn't want to make a move in the capital. Princess Ning An said sarcastically, "It seems that there's no room for discussion between us." The man said, "If you want your things back, you'd better do as we say." Princess Ning An sneered, "Why go through so much trouble? Why don't I help you kill him?" The man said, "If you can really kill him, that's fine. Bring his head here and we'll give it to you." After that, the room fell into a strange silence. No one knew what Princess Ning An was thinking, but it wasn't difficult to judge that Princess Ning An was very angry from the sound of the table being hit and the cup being thrown. In the end, the man seemed to have given Princess Ning An a gift, which temporarily calmed her down. Gu Chengfeng whispered, "That group of people is the power of the Yan Kingdom. What did they take from Princess Ning An to force Princess Ning An to work for them? Could it have something to do with the key?" "She's gone," Gu Jiao said. Gu Chengfeng said, then should we follow her, or follow that group of people? Gu Jiao said, that group of people. They had cast such a long line and finally caught the fish. Naturally, they would chase after the fish and bite it. But no one expected that Gu Chengfeng's nose would suddenly itch. He couldn't hold it in and sneezed loudly. Who's there? The man asked coldly. Gu Chengfeng hated his nose. Why didn't he sneeze earlier or later? Why did he have to sneeze now? This was great. They were exposed. Gu Jiao whistled at the sky, then grabbed Gu Chengfeng and flew out of the courtyard. Princess Ning An's bodyguard used Qinggong to chase after them. Gu Chengfeng lifted the veil of his bamboo hat and grabbed the heavy skirt with both hands. He stepped on his splayed feet and ran forward. A woman's skirt really affected his speed. In a moment of carelessness, the two were caught by the 4 bodyguards. The two sides fiercely exchanged blows. Gu Jiao didn't bring any weapons and fought with her bare hands. She held back 3 bodyguards by herself, but one of them still ran towards Gu Chengfeng. Gu Chengfeng's heavy palace attire really made it impossible for him to run away or fight. The other side slashed down with a cold sword. Gu Chengfeng dodged. I'll dodge. The other side slashed at empty air and swung his sword again. I'll dodge again. The other side slashed a few times but didn't hit and was completely enraged. He suddenly gave up on the sword and changed to a dagger at his waist. With lightning speed, he stabbed towards Gu Chengfeng's heart. This move was too strong and too fast. Gu Chengfeng didn't have time to dodge. With a loud bang, Gu Chengfeng's chest exploded. The god was completely dumbfounded. What's going on? Did he blow up a woman's thing? Gu Chengfeng wanted to disguise as a man, so her figure had to be similar. Their first choice was steamed buns. However, light steamed buns were too small and big steamed buns were too heavy. In the end, Gu Jiao took out 2 small buns from the small medicine box and let Gu Chengfeng blow on them. They could be as big as he wanted. They were light and didn't fall off easily. Perfect. Gu Chengfeng thought it was quite fun. He asked Gu Jiao if she had any extra. He would give one each to his brother and Gu Chenglin so they could blow on them when they had nothing to do. In the end, Gu Jiao said she didn't have any. There were only these 2 left and this guy exploded one of them. Gu Chengfeng was enraged. He picked up his pair of large palms and slapped the other party. Gu Jiao took care of the 3 people, but Gu Chengfeng was still slapping them with righteous indignation. Okay, let's go. Don't stop me. I want to beat him. I want to beat him. Gu Jiao grabbed the angry Gu Chengfeng and dragged him out of the alley. When Princess Ning An and the man rushed to the alley, Gu Jiao and Gu Chengfeng were long gone. Princess Ning An lost 4 bodyguards, but she didn't come out empty-handed. She found a section of golden muslin that had been cut off at the scene. She had seen this type of golden muslin on a person this morning. Before the 4th bodyguard died, he revealed 2 important pieces of information. It exploded. He was wearing women's clothes, but he spoke with a man's voice. Princess Ning An measured the footprints on the ground. There were 2 pairs of female footprints. One was a normal size, but the other was bigger than the bodyguard's feet. Huh? Princess Ning An laughed softly, her shoulders shaking. Xinyang, oh Xinyang, so you're a fake. After Gu Jiao and Gu Chengfeng got into the carriage, they had the coachman quickly drive the carriage to a crowded area. Gu Chengfeng was still feeling the pain of losing his treasure. Why are we running so fast? Gu Jiao said, they have a master. I can't beat them if you're with me. Gu Chengfeng snorted. What do you mean? Are my martial arts bad? Huh? When you broke into the marshal's residence at night, I wonder who saved you from the Tang army's arrows. Gu Jiao glanced at him. You know it was back then. Gu Chengfeng was speechless. Gu Chengfeng cleared his throat. They can't do anything in the capital, right? Gu Jiao said, they can't do anything easily, but there will always be a time when they have no other choice. Gu Chengfeng sighed regretfully. So we lost them just like that. Gu Jiao smiled and said, I won't. In the clear blue sky, a mighty gerfalcon flapped its wings and flew past. The next day, just after 3 in the morning, Empress Xiao took eunuch Su to the Eastern Palace. Today was the Crown Prince's first day in court. Empress Xiao was worried that her son would miss something, so she came over to explain everything again. Empress Xiao tidied up her son's clothes and said, Your uncle is not in court. If you can't make up your mind, don't agree on the spot. Don't worry, I've already arranged everything. Your uncle's subordinates will help you. The Crown Prince said, I know. Mother, you've told me many times. That's because no one has reminded you. Empress Xiao paused in the middle of her words. Then she changed the topic and said, I'll choose a few concubines for you. When the time is right, you can choose one you like to be your wife. I'll listen to mother's orders. The Crown Prince whispered. Empress Xiao stroked her son's shoulder. Although he was still upset, he was not as stubborn as his father. The Crown Prince said, Mother, I'm going to court. Empress Xiao was still worried. Although I don't get along with Princess Xinyang, she's still your aunt. She won't harm you. Listen to what she says. Don't argue with her in court. If someone wants to drive a wedge between you two, you're not allowed to listen. The Crown Prince muttered, If I bully her, my uncle will beat me when he comes back. My uncle loves my aunt. Empress Xiao rolled her eyes. Humph, your uncle doesn't love her. He's just a man who cares about his face. Eunuch Su hurriedly walked in. Empress. Your Highness. Something happened. Empress Xiao frowned and looked at him. What happened? Eunuch Su couldn't hide his panic. Princess Xinyang and Princess Ning'an quarreled outside the throne room. Empress Xiao was puzzled. What are they quarreling about? Why did Ning'an go to the throne room? Eunuch Su said, Princess Ning'an seemed to have gone to find Princess Xinyang. She said, Empress Xiao asked, What did she say? Eunuch Su braced himself and said, She said, Princess Xinyang is a fake. You said I'm a fake? What evidence do you have? Outside the throne room, Princess Xinyang, who was wearing a bamboo hat and veil, stood on the highest step. She looked down at Princess Ning'an, who was several steps shorter than her. If there's no evidence, then it's just slander. The doctor from the Imperial Censorate said, That's right. How could Princess Xinyang be a fake? Her voice is clearly the same. Princess Ning'an looked at everyone sincerely. I guess that you wouldn't believe me, but I really did see this person pretending to be Princess Xinyang on the street yesterday. I asked the old nannies in the palace. Princess Xinyang is accompanied by a female official called Yujin. No matter where Princess Xinyang goes, Yujin follows her everywhere. Then why is it that on such an important day as the court, Yujin is nowhere to be seen? The doctor from the Imperial Censorate choked. Yujin has been with Princess Xinyang for more than 10 years. Indeed, Yujin follows her every time she enters the palace. Princess Ning'an's gaze fell on the young maid beside Princess Xinyang. This was the same maid from yesterday, but she had already guessed her identity. Princess Ning'an pointed at the young maid and said, This maid is wearing a human skin mask. She's also in disguise. What? Everyone was shocked. Not only was the princess a fake, but even the maid was a fake? For a moment, no one thought of the imperial edict conferring Princess Xinyang the regent of the country. However, if they knew that this master and servant were the Gu siblings in disguise, then the Gu family would not be able to escape the crime of rebellion. The crime of rebellion was punishable by the execution of the entire family. Xiao Lulang was the son-in-law of the Gu family. He would also die under the guillotine. This was what it meant to be given a pillow when one was sleepy. She was just worrying about how to kill Xiao Lulang. Everyone looked at the expressionless young maid, and then at Princess Xinyang, who was wearing a bamboo hat and didn't dare to reveal her true appearance. Princess Xinyang's fingers were slightly clenched. It wasn't hard to see that she was nervous. The young maid gently patted the back of Princess Xinyang's hand and shook her head slightly. This action seemed unintentional, but everyone still caught it. Princess Xinyang took a deep breath and slowly said, "Sister Ning-en, I've never done anything wrong to you. Why are you slandering me like this?" Princess Ning-en said, "I'm not slandering you. I just don't want you to use the identity of Princess Xinyang to swindle others. Yesterday, you went to see His Majesty. I don't know if you did anything, but I heard that His Majesty's condition is getting worse." Everyone's eyes darkened. They looked at Princess Xinyang with suspicion and coldness. Princess Ning-en stared straight at her. "If you were Princess Xinyang, would you dare take off your bamboo hat?" Princess Xinyang clenched her handkerchief and said calmly, "I have a rash. My appearance is unsightly. It's inconvenient for me to meet people." Princess Ning-en walked up the steps step by step. "Do you have a rash, or are you not?" Princess Xinyang said indifferently, "What if I am?" Princess Ning-en suddenly looked behind Princess Xinyang. "Brother." Princess Xinyang turned around. Princess Ning-en took advantage of the unprepared situation and took off her bamboo hat. A face covered in rashes was exposed in front of everyone. What was surprising was that this was indeed Princess Xinyang's face. Princess Ning-en was shocked. "Impossible. You must be wearing a mask." She reached out to tear off the human skin mask on Princess Xinyang's face, but was slapped by Princess Xinyang. "Impudent." Princess Xinyang's eyes were cold, and her aura was completely released. Princess Ning-en was hit and rolled down the steps. The imperial experts behind her swarmed forward to capture Princess Xinyang. Who would have thought that suddenly, a dragon-like figure would descend from the sky and block in front of Princess Xinyang? Digression, long E, Lu, request, Lu, month, Lu, vote. The latest chapter of this book is not finished. For more wonderful content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated even faster. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels with connotations that can't be found online are all available here. https://www.zhbqg.com/89642_826/1085942991. HTML Genius memorized this site's address in 1 second. www.zhbqg.com Bikuj mobile reading website, m. zhbqg.com. Chapter 572. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated even faster. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels that can't be found online are all here. Those imperial experts who were originally rushing towards Princess Xinyang were almost instantly blown away by a terrifying internal force. No one saw how this man who had suddenly appeared made his move. By the time everyone reacted, they had already fallen beside Princess Ning-en. It should be known that they were all experts brought from the frontier fortress. Although they weren't as powerful as the dragon shadow guards, they were definitely not ordinary people. Unexpectedly, they were so easily defeated by the other party. Princess Ning-en was so shocked that she couldn't speak. In a flash, she recognized the dragon shadow guard mask on the other party's face. But this was very strange, wasn't it? She had seen all 4 of the Emperor's dragon shadow guards, but none of them were so tall and swift. Moreover, one of the 4 dragon shadow guards was already dead, and the other 3 were still healing. It was impossible for them to move. So where did this dragon shadow guard come from? Not many ministers of the imperial court had actually seen the dragon shadow guard. For a moment, no one recognized the rumored dragon shadow guard, and only thought that he was a shadow guard at Princess Xinyang's side. The ministers didn't know much about the martial strength of experts, but seeing him easily defeat 4, they couldn't help but feel that he was very powerful. So powerful, is he a shadow guard given by Marquis Xianping? Should be. The ministers began to whisper among themselves. Because of their fear of Long E, no one dared to step forward and help the injured Princess Ning-en up. Princess Xinyang walked down the steps step by step. Her face was covered with red rashes, but her aura didn't decrease in the slightest. Princess Xinyang stopped at a step in front of Princess Ning'an and looked down at her. You say I'm fake? Open your eyes wide and see, am I fake? Princess Ning'an's gaze firmly fell on Princess Xinyang's face. After looking for a long time, she shifted her gaze to the little maid. Princess Xinyang raised her hand and beckoned with her finger. The little maid understood and silently came to Princess Xinyang's side. Princess Xinyang indifferently said, You suspect my maid is wearing a human skin mask, then I'll find someone to take it off for you to see. Finished speaking, she looked at a nearby eunuch. You come here. The eunuch quickly walked over. Do it. Yes. The eunuch walked in front of the young maidservant and said politely, Excuse me. He reached out to touch the young servant girl's face and behind her ears, then carefully examined the young servant girl's face. He turned to Princess Xinyang and Princess Ning'an and said, In response to the two princesses, this is her own face. Princess Ning'an's expression changed. Impossible. Yesterday, it was this servant girl who had been with the impostor Princess Xinyang. This servant girl's actions were strange, and she had even taken the emperor's pulse. It was clearly Gu Zhao. Princess Xinyang ordered, You go over yourself and show Princess Ning'an your face. Yes. The servant girl called walked up to Princess Ning'an, squatted down, and put her face close to Princess Ning'an. Princess Ning'an raised her hand and touched her face. It was indeed his face. Her eyes widened in disbelief. Princess Xinyang coldly asked, Ning'an, why did you do this? Princess Ning'an looked at the officials with complicated expressions and explained, It's because someone saw Princess Xinyang and this servant girl causing trouble on the street and exposed the fact that she wasn't Princess Xinyang, so I... Princess Xinyang coldly snorted. That's why you didn't go to the Palace of Earthly Tranquility to report to the Empress or the Eastern Palace to report to the Crown Prince. And you didn't even go to my residence to ask my retainers for confirmation. You just brought me to justice in public like this. Have you gone crazy from wanting to gain merit? Or are you deliberately trying to stop me from regenting the country? Princess Ning'an gritted her teeth and avoided the sharp words, trying to focus on the main point. If I wasn't sure you were fake, would I have come to expose you? You're the one who set me up. Princess Xinyang wasn't afraid at all. Even if I set you up, you have to be willing to fall into it. You're overstepping your authority. The Empress and the Crown Prince are both here, so when did you have the right to come to the throne room to expose the fake princess? That was because Empress Xiao was protecting Xiao Lulang. If she knew that one of the impostors was Xiao Liulong's wife, Gu Zhao, she might have suppressed this matter. But if it was brought to the throne room, there would be no turning back. What happened? Empress Xiao and the Crown Prince arrived, and the one who asked was Empress Xiao. Princess Xinyang told the Empress what had just happened. The Empress saw my face yesterday and knows how serious it was. If it wasn't for my face recovering quickly, I'm afraid no one would recognize me today. She might say, if you're innocent, won't the truth be revealed after a few days when your rash subsides? The problem is, while I'm in prison waiting for the rash to subside, won't I be plotted against? These words were too perfect. Even Empress Xiao felt that this method of framing someone was feasible. If Princess Ning'an's goal was to kill Xinyang in prison, then her actions in the throne room today could be explained. Princess Ning'an was very angry. She didn't think that a person could make up such a flawless lie. But aren't you forgetting something? I have no reason to harm you. She indeed had no reason to frame Xinyang. Now she wanted to see how Xinyang would make up another story. Princess Xinyang's lips curled mockingly. Do you really think that His Majesty didn't tell me anything? Princess Ning'an's brows furrowed. She didn't understand what Princess Xinyang was saying, but she instinctively felt that something was wrong. Princess Xinyang said, There are some things that His Majesty didn't say because he wanted to save your face, and I didn't plan to expose it. But if you won't cry until you see the coffin, then don't blame me for announcing your and your mother's crimes to the world. Princess Ning'an's temples suddenly throbbed. She knew what Princess Xinyang wanted to say, but her reaction was too late. It was too late to shut Princess Xinyang's mouth. Princess Xinyang angrily looked at Princess Ning. When my son was 5 years old, he was poisoned near Ranshou Palace. The culprit behind the scenes was your mother, Jing, and Shi Tai. Not only did she poison my son to frame the Empress Dowager, she also drugged His Majesty and sowed discord between His Majesty and the Empress Dowager. She even found people to assassinate His Majesty and kidnap the Empress Dowager. Her crimes, one after another, are too numerous to list. Such a vicious and sinister person should be destroyed by the heavens and earth. It's funny that you actually think that we colluded to force her to death. Princess Ning and you. Princess Xinyang coldly said, "What about me? What did I say wrong? Or is there nothing wrong? You're so guilty that you can only glare at me?" Princess Ning couldn't say a word for a long time. It was also at this moment that she truly realized that she had been crushed. Whether it was the truth or a lie, she had been completely crushed by Xinyang. Nonsense. I didn't. Sister-in-law. Believe me. Princess Ning couldn't out-talk Princess Xinyang, so she could only turn her head and place her hopes on Empress Xiao. Empress Xiao and Princess Xinyang had always been at odds. If you asked Empress Xiao which princess she hated the most, it would be none other than Xinyang. However, most people only saw Empress Xiao throwing a tantrum at Princess Xinyang, but they didn't know that it was all trivial matters. If Empress Xiao really wanted to scheme against someone, she wouldn't show her emotions on her face. Empress Xiao sternly said, "I will investigate this matter thoroughly. Men, take Princess Ning away. Without my orders, she is not allowed to leave Iridescent Cloud's hall." This meant that she was going to put Princess Ning under house arrest. Yes. Eunuch Su complied and called for 2 capable eunuchs to drag the bruised and battered Princess Ning away. "Go to court," Empress Xiao said to Princess Xinyang. Princess Xinyang nodded and reminded, "Don't let her get close to His Majesty again." Empress Xiao was stunned. Princess Xinyang didn't say anything else. She put on the bamboo hat handed to her by the servant girl and turned to walk towards the throne room. Everyone, including Empress Xiao, was stunned for a long time. Concubine Jing really did those things. Cough. A doctor from the censorate muttered in a low voice, but he was elbowed by the Minister of War. Minister Su from the Minister of War lightly coughed, hinting his old friend to shut up. "Mother." Crown Prince looked at Empress Xiao worriedly. "Mother is fine. You can go to court." Empress Xiao was greatly shocked. She didn't feel sorry for Concubine Jing. She actually knew a little about Concubine Jing, but she didn't know everything. She also didn't feel sorry for Princess Ning. She just couldn't come back to her senses. Empress Xiao patted her son's shoulder. "Go quickly. Don't delay the court. Mother still has other things to do." Crown Prince. Oh. Empress Xiao closed her eyes. Although she was very unwilling, she still warned, Listen to your Aunt Xinyang. He doesn't dare to disobey. Long Yi, beat him." Princess Xinyang didn't look back. Long Yi heard, "Ha ha 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 ha, beat him." Long Yi flashed in front of Crown Prince. Crown Prince's hair stood on end. Hey, hey, hey. Why do I have to be beaten when I'm obedient? Digression, I just took a look. It's only 5 votes away from 1,000. Let's break it, the latest chapter of this book isn't finished yet. For more wonderful content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated even faster. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels with connotations that can't be found on the internet are all available here. https://www.zhbqg.com/89642/826/1085726770. HTML Genius will remember this site's address in a second. www.zhbqg.com Bikuj mobile reading website. zhbqg.com. You're tuning in to the Narrate and Escape YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.